Red Hawks' path to the NCAA tournament became a little more difficult, but they still have an opportunity for an at-large bid. MAC tournament continues later today over at Rocket Arena with UMass facing Toledo at 5, and then Penn State and Akron will tip off at 7:30. You can now find 92.3 The Fan on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and get the best content from our shows each and every weekday. That's 92.3 The Fan on YouTube. Headline sports news every 20 minutes on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Meredith Kane.
The afternoon drive.
I'm in on Malik Willis to some degree. I'm in on Kyler Murray to some degree. I'm in on every quarterback possible except Anthony Richardson.
It almost feels like sometimes with these guys, and maybe the Browns would be thinking about this too. It's like, well, Anthony Richardson costs us a 5th-round pick now, but after a year of him sitting, then another team is going to say, oh, wow, he really grew in Cleveland, didn't he? And we need a quarterback, and they're going to flip him for a spot like, 25 spots better and act as if they just won this big deal. They do a lot of that nonsense.
But, it's weird that we're in a spot where I don't really like Kyler Murray that much. The outcome that's going to fill me with the least amount of what the hell are you doing is if Kyler Murray gives you a Russell Wilson kind of deal, at which point, by the way, the probability of him coming to Cleveland and you suddenly being a different organization or him being a different quarterback might be 25%.
The afternoon drive. Weekdays starting at 2. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. The Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima.
Travis Steele joins us right now. He is the head coach of the Miami Red Hawks, who are, I lost count, you're 31-0, Coach?
I lost count a long time ago, but it's what everybody's saying, so I'm gonna take them for the word.
Coach, I mean this sincerely. I went to Akron, but I'm a MAC guy. I think what you're doing is fantastic. I wish you continued success regardless of anything. Good luck to you this week.
Scaljack, 3 seconds left, fired a 3. Taken down the top seed, Miami Red Hawks.
We'll give UMass a lot of credit. Nobody gave them much of a shot coming in here.
This is Cleveland Sports Radio, 92.3 The Fan.
Well, better call your dear brother on how to game plan for UMass, huh? I'm kidding.
Come on.
I'm kidding.
I think there's a little bit of truth in that.
No. Ain't his fault. It ain't Travis Steele's fault I got it mixed up. No, it's fine. Here, they're going to make the tournament. They better make the tournament, or I really will feel bad over laughing just a second ago. They damn well better make that tournament, or I'm telling you, it's bad things for the Mid-American Conference. I do not like this.
I think it's bad for the sport if they don't.
It's bad. Yes, it is bad for college basketball. Danny Cunningham in for Tone today.
I can.
Tone will be back on Monday, regrettably. Well, we'll see.
We'll see. You can't promise that with him.
The wild things happen in Dayton, Ohio, man. You don't even know. I mean, I think you could guess, but you get what I'm saying. Anyway, they got to get in the tournament.
Yes.
If they don't get in the tournament, you're right, it's bad for college basketball. I think it's terrible for the MAC. I have a lot of regret from yesterday. I'm going to explain that here in a second. I just got to get this off my chest. You have a conference right now. Okay, you brought UMass. Technically, you brought UMass back. But you brought UMass in. I think and Frank Martin's a great coach. Interesting character. It's a good win by them. Congratulations on all your success, this, that, and the other. But this is a conference that OU was flirting with the Sun Belt. I know Miami is your academic team or academic school in the conference, high academic school, so it's not that easy. I'm not saying Miami itself. I mean, I think Miami would kick the tires on it, especially if OU were a team that might be going somewhere else. I think they might kick the tires on it, but again, it's a high academic institution. I think, though, that if you are in a conference that, man, we can't even get an at-large bid with a 31-1 team, this is the sport you can really invest in. Football,
right.
I'm very critical of mid-major, not just Mid-American Conference, I mean in general. I'm very critical of mid-major football. I'm very critical of schools that just pour money into football, and I don't think they really get anything out of it. And I know that people go, oh, that's crazy. Listen, I get it. I understand. There's a $600,000 part of it that you get by being a part of a MAC school in football. I don't think that's very much of the grand scheme of things. Sacramento State is only using you for a short amount of time. I think you're kind of using Sacramento State to keep your footprint. That's fine. Okay, you can use each other. But short story I'm making long is I really think if they don't get in on Sunday, like if they got in the play-in, I think I'd have a problem with the play-in, but at least they'd be in. If they didn't get in some way, somehow on Sunday, which I think a lot of people are coming to their sense to go, they'll be fine, they'll be in. But if they didn't, I'd be very nervous for the future of the MAC, Dan.
Well, especially, too, when this is a year where the bubble seems to be pretty weak. Like, there's conversation about Auburn being in. I watched that Auburn game yesterday. I am not going to sit here and act like I watch a ton of college basketball because I don't.
I watched more college basketball this year than I have in about 3 years. Part of that is John Fanta.
John is the best, but, like, I don't watch a ton of this stuff. But watching Auburn yesterday lose and fall to a game above 500, like, you can't tell me that it's good for college basketball because Auburn lost to a bunch of good teams that it played, that they belong in the tournament instead of a team like Miami. And we can talk about their schedule being one of the weakest in the entire country. And I know that Matt Brown filed that Freedom of Information Act where he found out exactly who Miami tried to schedule and who turned them down. And I think that is helpful to the case of the Red Hawks here. But for a team, it is so hard to win 31 straight games. I don't care who you're playing. I don't care what your schedule looks like. There's no argument to be made that, this, Power 5 team that was around 500 would have the same record.
Agreed.
Probably not. Like, go look at who some of those bubble teams have lost to that are comparable to teams that Miami has
somebody
beat.
on ESPN, I forget who the hell it was, had said that a lot of these ACC schools and things like that would be 31-1. It's like, well, UMass beat BC earlier this year, so I don't know if they'd be 31-1 if you're losing to UMass. I just don't believe in it. Yes.
I got Frank Martin here. He's the UMass head coach. He kind of talked about this and why he thinks Miami should be in the tournament as well.
It'd be a complete embarrassment if the decision makers sit in that room. And I've been privy to being on the NABC board. They allow us to go do a sample selection Sunday with the people on the committee. So I know the criteria that goes into it. We've created a bad system. Why? All our teams in our league were all assigned a number before the season started. Those metric numbers that are assigned to us, how do we ever change those numbers if we can't play the teams that are assigned the number 20 to start the season? Because they ain't scheduling. Excuse my bad English. They're not going to schedule us.
I think he's right about that.
I do too.
I think it's a weird thing how things don't move, and we always do this in college football. We always make arguments for. Goodness gracious, look at Notre Dame. I made the argument the entire year, and then at the end of the year, it's like, well, Miami's done this lately, you've done this lately, but still, you're the one who's left out of this. And it creates an argument. Doesn't mean it's fair. Doesn't mean that I have to sit here and cry. I don't think any. And it's weird. There's a lot of people who I didn't realize in this area really don't like Miami of Ohio. There were a lot of people celebrating that loss yesterday, but it's still I defend them. Like I've only been to that campus once. I got nothing for Miami of Ohio. I got nothing against Miami. But I think that if they're left out or the strong argument is made to leave them out, I don't think it's good for college basketball. I really don't think it's good for the Mid-American Conference.
And there are 68 teams that get into this thing.
Yes.
And that's part of it, too. This is not because you bring up Notre Dame in the college football playoff. And I think that's a different discussion because, one, the sample size is so much smaller in college football, and you only get 12 teams in. So, that is a different discussion. We can talk about the group of 5 getting 2 teams in. That shouldn't be the case that it was. Mm-hmm. But 68 teams get into this thing. You can't tell me all 68 teams are going to have a chance. And I understand the automatic bid process, and I get that you're not actually taking the top 68 teams. I get that is not what they're saying. But you cannot tell me that a team that wins 31 regular season games consecutively doesn't deserve one of those at-large spots. I have no rooting interest in this. I don't care about Miami of Ohio. I have no allegiance to really any team in the MAC. I didn't go to any of those schools. But you can't tell me that a team that wins 31 consecutive games, I don't care who the opponents are, at that level, that is one of the teams that belongs to have an opportunity to win the national championship.
Where'd you go to college again?
Lake Erie College.
Oh, that's right.
They did.
Home of the Storm.
They made the Division II NCAA tournament.
So did Ashland.
They did.
I didn't go to Ashland. I just
Lake Erie. They beat Ashland in the GMAC tournament, and I believe they're one spot higher in their region. Mm-hmm. They take on Michigan Tech.
Game went into the 80s. Michigan Tech.
Congratulations on all your success.
Thank you.
Michigan. That's the team I listen to when it comes to college hockey.
Of course, we've had their hockey play-by-play.
That's where I played my last college football game.
Up up at Michigan Tech in Houghton, Michigan.
Dude, it was the last week. It was the week before
you played
Thanksgiving.
It's just a park.
Yeah,
it's a big
miserable.
berm. It's a big grass berm.
We played there the week before Thanksgiving. It was our last game of the season. It was 9 degrees. There was snow piled everywhere on the sides of the field. It was miserable.
I'm glad.
And then we had a 16-hour bus ride back.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd taken that bus ride.
It's miserable.
Your bus driver was driving faster than our bus driver because we took 17 hours.
I don't remember the bus drive.
It's a long time, man.
I don't remember the bus drive. I'll just tell you that.
You see, that's why you should have done basketball. I know it's easy to say that. If you played football in college, it's like it's so business-like. Basketball, it's like, hey, we're going basically for a week. Let's kind of let our hair down, enjoy the UP.
You should just grow 6 inches and play college basketball.
I should just been a hooper, man.
It's D2. There's a bunch of 6-footers.
Ken, I didn't play basketball. I didn't play basketball in high school.
Well, I'm glad you're covering our Cleveland Cavaliers.
Just grow 6 inches.
Yeah, just be tall.
It doesn't have to be tall for D2.
There's right. I would be undersized.
You're a D2 basketball player this morning. Call it. Tell us your height.
216.
You want me to get the Lake Erie coach on the horn? Tell him I'm undersized.
Walsh Cavaliers, get in here right now. I'm filled with a little bit of regret. Well, I'm filled with a lot of regret. Owen and I had a chance to go yesterday. Lyman couldn't go. Usually Lyman and I go and we watch at least a game. And Lyman tries to goad me into drinking, and I don't drink because I got work later on in the day, and I'm. You don't
think that'd go well?
That's just to me. If it's just.
It's March, Ken.
Nah, I can't go on air. I can't go air lushed up. Then I got to start going to meetings, and I can't do it.
People have done that before.
So, yes, they have, and I'm still like, Kenny, do you have any standard? Do you have anything left?
Go ahead, power rank those lushed up TV.
I'm not going to do that.
Oh.
I am not going to do that.
Why not?
Okay, we will wait until about 6:18, and then we can do that, I think.
Oh, no. We're not
you play the music in the break.
Come on.
Jason isn't here today. He knows what he's doing. Okay, I bet we'll get out
of He started pointed at least in an area that he can see me and not his feet propped up.
Yes.
That way.
Eating his breakfast while he's on the air.
His butterscotches.
God.
If you were on YouTube yesterday, you got to watch Jason Lloyd try to put a half-suckled butterscotch candy back into the wrapper, drop it, almost fall because his feet are up on the desk.
True. Did do that.
What an experience.
Anyway, so Owen was going to go instead of Lima. Owen's child got sick, and I go, I don't like going places alone, so I didn't go. I wasn't going to go alone. I didn't think that my buddy Gabe was going to be there, and I totally forgot. And he's like, where are you at? He texted me like halftime, like, oh, that's right. I'm over at the TV station. Sorry. And then they ended up losing. So I had a chance to see some history there in the Mid-American Conference Tournament. I didn't see it. Some folks tried to say we jinxed it.
I saw people on Twitter blaming you for Miami losing.
Which is asinine. All I did was do an interview. Second thing is that some people tried to blame me because I was there. I wasn't there, and I took a picture holding up my Apple Watch to show them the time with my phone to make sure they all, like holding up the newspaper. I didn't have one handy, so I wanted to show them where I was at. So I'm like, hey, I'm not there. I am not there right now, so I don't even want to hear about it. Don't blame me. Don't come after me because Travis Steele's team fell in the Mid-American Conference Tournament. Don't do it. It ain't my fault.
I mean, you.
What?
I don't know if you jinxed him, but you
jinxed anything.
At least jinxed his family.
I didn't jinx his family. John Gross won. They nearly lost that game, but
that's true.
They won that game.
Hey, you guys got a pretty good coach over there at Akron. I kind of know him.
I got to tell you, I was worried. I was worried when Keith Dambrot left, Coach. I ain't gonna lie to you. I was like, who's John Gross? It didn't work out at Illinois. Boy, he's been the cat's ass for us. I got to tell you.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Someone told me the other day Skip Holtz is Lou Holtz's son. I had no idea.
Yeah.
What? How'd you not know that?
I'm making a joke, Danny. Of course I knew that. Do you know about Jim Tressel's dad? Do you know what he did?
No.
You really don't?
No.
Oh, he's a famous coach over at BW.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
They like
Trestle Field.
Are you guys going to make fun of him? That's a senator right there. You guys ain't going to make fun of him? He didn't know.
Lieutenant governor.
Well,
technically, yeah, but we used to call him a senator back in the day.
If Jim Tressel ever comes on and Danny's hosting and Danny goes, Jim, Baldwin Wallace, great campus over there. You got to see it sometime. If he does something stupid like that,
It is a great
then,
campus.
Yeah,
Nice
we will.
stadium there.
It's a nice
Finney
campus.
Stadium, if
Yes.
I'm not
Oh
mistaken.
yeah,
They
Trestle
have-
Field. It's
Trestle
Finney
Field.
Stadium.
Yeah,
Field. There's a bunch of streets.
How do you
named-
know that the name's Trestle Field?
Because
but
I
you
played
didn't
there
know-
in high school. We had high school games there.
You didn't put 2 and 2 together.
Totally forgot.
There's a Lee
Forgotten
Trestle
until now.
Way, I believe.
Yeah.
over there. Yeah,
Forgot about it till now. Don't think often about Baldwin Wallace football, Ken.
Daryl, well, that's the difference between real football guys and whatever you consider yourself to be. Because I think about, I wake up.
We already talked about
some
Michigan Tech
mornings,
football
brother,
this morning.
I wake
I
up
don't want to hear it.
because you played against them.
Yes.
That doesn't count, brother. I
That
wake up in a
counts.
cold sweat in the middle of March, going, "Oh my God, Yellow Jackets football! What are they going to do in 2026, brother? You don't even
They're
know."
going to lose to John Carroll. That's what they're going to do.
Danny claims that history is repeating itself for your Cleveland Browns. Kyler Murray ain't going to be a Cleveland Brown. Oh, my gosh, we're really surprised. I got ripped for it yesterday, and I'll tell you about that and play that for you at 6:40 this morning. Ken Carman, Danny in for Tone on The Fan.
You
contractor you want, Choice Cabinet, or visit the Warrensville Heights showroom today. Start your dream project at choicecabinet.com.
Route 8 north from Graham to 303 is clear of accidents, as well as 480 east from the Turnpike to Warrensville Center. This is Joe Checkeye for 92.3 The Fan.
The NFL landscape can change at any moment. Free agency is open for business, and this is the place to talk about it. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Danny says that history is repeating itself, and at 8 o'clock, a new savior for your Cleveland Browns might be hiding in plain sight. John has a theory. It's a wild morning here. So what are you trying to say about history repeating itself, Danny?
This is the year I think that we are finally paying for the sins of the worst transaction in NFL history.
Wait a minute, we're finally paying for it?
Yes.
Now, wait a minute, okay.
Yes. So let me explain
We're
this.
finally paying for it.
Because in every year since that trade, we've been able to sell hope. And now we can't. We're finally paying for this. This is where we're paying for it. I firmly believe that.
No.
Yes.
Danny.
Because think back to last year. You could at least talk yourself into that roster with Joe Flacco or Kenny Pickett. Now, it might have been silly, but you could have talked yourself into hope. Think about the years
and
before.
Don't sit here
coming
and
off
say
of a
that
playoff.
you didn't raise the win total the week of
because
week
of
one.
peer pressure. Owen.
Did you or did you not do it?
People
Because
got it
no
on
peer
social
pressure.
media.
You can't do that 'cause
yourself
they're gonna
into
stink.
hope, and they talked themselves into hope. Dude, Danny's got it on this one. And I
No,
normally
he
love to
doesn't.
hate
Yes, I
on
do.
Danny, but Danny got that one.
This is.
What about the year before?
They were
went
coming
3 and
off a
13,
playoff
3 and 14.
They were coming off the playoffs.
They didn't have Joe Flacco anymore.
They had a playoff roster. You
and
could talk yourself into
You guys
hope
kept
still.
bringing up, well, that second half in Baltimore, second half in Baltimore. He's going to be good. We're back to the old Deshaun.
I
Guess
didn't say that, did I?
Brother, you said that much.
Okay,
I
fine.
had to change from a different B word that I was going to say there.
Maybe I did. We're just finally paying for the sins
Yes,
of
because
the
we've been
worst
able to
trade
sell
ever.
hope for all these years. It hasn't worked out, but you can't necessarily point and say it is solely because of that, because other things have gone wrong too. But now you look at it, and this is when some of those picks you would count on to be key contributors to a good team. Obviously, Deshaun has been the worst quarterback in football since he's been in Cleveland. That's part of it too. You don't have anything, and maybe if you are somebody that talks yourself into Shedeur Sanders, that's great. I think he's a nice guy. I don't think he's a franchise quarterback.
Well,
this is the first time, because you can go back to last year.
This is a fatalistic question to ask. 216-474-0092. Do you have any hope for 2026?
I love that you got there at 627.
Why not? Why not? Go ahead.
Because you could talk yourself into Flacco or Pickett last year. How many people are realistically talking themselves into this roster with this head coach, with this quarterback room?
Realistically?
Yeah. Because there were people that realistically have been able to do it.
Listen,
every single year Deshaun has been on the roster until now.
I think there are. See, this is going to be a long explanation,
I'm
going to end up taking shots at people. I don't want to take shots at people. I do think that there's some people. I don't want to say they're disingenuous. I think they're lying to themselves, which in turn, and I've lied to myself many times. You just called me out for lying to myself a couple years ago. I lied to myself. Definitely done that. And so when you lie to yourself, you end up lying to others. But I do think that there's been some people trying to sell something that just isn't true here over the last couple of weeks about the Cleveland Browns. And I'm talking about on-air personnel. I think that they've tried to do that. I think that when you look at this realistically, and some people have gotten frustrated with me because, yeah, I'm a pom-pom guy. I know what I am, all right? I know I'm a homer. There was a time maybe in my life I would deny it. I don't deny it anymore. I don't deny it any longer, and I haven't for a long time. But I want to keep our low profile going. I want to get through this year. I want to see what we have, not freak out, and I want to see where it goes going into 2027. If Shedeur ends up playing and plays well, that'd be great. I don't think it's really going to happen. I think that we're probably looking to somebody who's playing college football this year. And that's not a foolproof plan, everybody. I understand that. But I want to see incremental growth because I don't want to do something foolish to try to fix this thing, quote unquote, and hot shot this thing into the postseason. So I am a proponent of this blasé feeling for the betterment of the franchise's future, this blasé feeling right now. That's what I've been a proponent for. And I think it's been a shock to the system for a lot of folks because, yeah, I've been an excitable person, and I've lied to myself about things in the past. Now, I don't think that we're paying the fiddler now for it. I think that we've been paying for it over the last 3 years, and maybe I just haven't recognized it. Or I didn't want to recognize it, that we paid for it for the last 3 years.
It hasn't felt
like
this.
You know, what Owen just said, he's like, hey, you guys talked about the first half of Baltimore. I mean, when you think about that 2 years afterwards when we were making that argument, Owen's right. I said it. I wanted to cling on to it. That sounds absolutely insane.
Yeah.
I mean, that really sounds insane that I sat there and held on to one half against the Baltimore Ravens and said, no, that we can get this thing figured out there. I mean, that sounds nuts.
Yeah, especially considering the injuries. Yes, it's insane.
I think that maybe you're right that we're hitting each other over the head with it finally right now, but I think it's been getting clearer and clearer here over the last couple of years. Maybe halfway through 2 years ago, definitely last year, definitely this year. But that's part of the reason why I think, hey, it's been years since we've had those arguments in 2022. It's been years since we had some fun in 2023. And now I see this as hey, guys, you got a new head coach. And
how many people are excited about?
No, I think they're more excited by the day just because they like the guy. I don't think they're excited that they think they're going to win a bunch of games. I think that they actually kind of like the guy because there's no games to judge him by yet. There's no craziness to judge him by yet. We haven't seen how he's reacted to situations with his football team, whether we've liked it or whether we've not, whether he got a handle on it or not, because it's only March.
Sure, that's
we
fair.
haven't even gotten to OTAs. So there's a lot of things that you just naturally like. Like Mike Rutenberg hits it out of the park last week. Like a younger guy, a likable guy, high-energy guy. So I think that those things are there for him, but I think that those things can carry on for the future for him going into at least next year, okay? But what I point out for this year is when you have a new head coach, like Zach says, quote, it's stupid to consider Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
But I said, well, if you have a new guy coming in, I think it's stupid to the fan base. I think it's stupid for a lot of people who are outsiders. But I don't think it's stupid if he goes out there and he looks better in OTAs against Shedeur Sanders. That's why I'm like, I can't slam that. Guys, I'd love to slam the door shut and say, Shedeur, off you go. I can't do it because I got a new head coach and his responsibility is a reality that's not like ours. Our reality is with the fans and how fans feel about the football team. With his reality, he doesn't have to care about the fans. He shouldn't care about the fans. He needs to care about the other guys that are in the locker room. And he can lie, they can lie, they can't lie to the guys in the locker room. I'm telling you, I think it's a little bit closer than we think. I'm telling you.
They can't lie to the guys in the locker room, but if that happens, that is a disaster, and it's not. We all know how that's going to end.
What actually is a disaster about it?
Deshaun Watson playing?
Yes. What's the disaster?
That you are
He's not staying here.
No, I know, but you also, because I don't believe in Shedeur as a franchise quarterback. I want to get that out there. I think he's a nice kid.
Well, you really hung him over the fence on that one.
I'm rooting for him. Nothing would make this season better than if Shedeur develops into a franchise quarterback and we can sit here and say,
I feel the same way you do.
The Browns have figured this out.
I feel the same way you do.
Don't think that's happening. But if you play Deshaun Watson, you don't even get that opportunity. Because if there's one thing to sell hope on for this year, it's Shedeur. Again, I don't think he's going to be a franchise quarterback, but that is what this year is about. Because you have this young quarterback who has shown tiny flashes at times. There have been these little moments in what he's played where he has looked like he could maybe be the guy. And if you don't give him that opportunity to play a quarterback that is coming off of 2 Achilles tears, surgery on his throwing shoulder, and that nobody wants, you're taking away the only opportunity for hope. I would argue the only thing that could make this feel worse than it does right now is watching number 4 play.
You coach, you are right. You are right. But you're talking about how it feels to the fans. Because I think Shedeur is the only way to have to instill, and there's going to be people who roll their eyes at this. That's how low this situation is right now, guys. Shedeur is the only way, I agree with you wholeheartedly, that you can establish hope, but let me take it a step further. You can establish hope without really hurting your future. It's the only way.
Mm-hmm.
This is why I'm so nervous about the Ty Simpson thing. I don't think this is the right situation for him. I think that there are some good things, but he's only played in 15 games. He's young. I think he's underweight. I think he's not big enough. I think he'll take a pounding. I think he'd take a pounding with an offensive line that I hope is better, but I have no idea because these guys are all just meeting each other basically for the first time out there. So I think Shedeur is the only one to do it. But I got to ask you this, because, again, you're a football coach, Danny. You can't lie to guys in the locker room. I mean, we got 3 football guys in here, but you're the guy who coaches in high school. So, Danny, if you were the head coach of the Browns and you have to make the decision, if you believe that Deshaun Watson was actually better in OTAs, because remember, Todd said going into camp, we're going to get our idea who's going to be the number 1 quarterback going into the competition in camp based on what happens in OTAs. And I'm thinking they're throwing against air, they're running a lot of drills, there's not a ton of team stuff going on, and if they do, who's got more experience within a team setting? Who's the guy who once played at a higher level here? Who's the guy who has all that experience? Who's the guy who has a stronger physical prowess than Shedeur Sanders? Shedeur's not a shrimp, but it goes to Deshaun Watson every time.
Sure.
So I have to ask you as a football coach, I know that you and I are a conduit with the fans, but you got to put your whistle over your neck. What do you do, Danny? You have to pick what's right for the team, or you're going to end up losing these guys because you can't lie to them. And if everybody in the world knows that one guy's better and you pick the other guy, you lose him.
If he's better, that says so many bad things about Shedeur. And you're right about that. Like, you do have to look at who is better. That says more about Shedeur because we have so much evidence, Ken, of Deshaun not being good. When is the last time Deshaun Watson was a good quarterback? And don't tell me that second half against Baltimore.
Well, no, I have to. I have to grip on a flag.
For an extended period.
For an extended period of time, 2020.
Over 5 years.
For an extended period of time, 2020. Yes.
There's a lot of data that suggests this guy is a lemon. The Browns traded for a lemon of a quarterback in Deshaun Watson.
Yes, and I know it would be an insult to a lot of the fans, but again, this is where there's a ton of pressure on Shedeur. Shedeur has to be putting in the work right now. This is why I get nervous about what Jason says, because one, I hear things that are different from what Jason said, and I said that to him yesterday. 2, I don't like it because I get fearful that it's not that he doesn't have the work ethic. It's that at times he might not know how to, not at times. He may or may not know how to work to what the NFL wants him to do. Sure. And who's going to be able to help him out doing that? If there was very little trust with the former coaching staff, that's why I think Shedeur has been in the building so much. I don't think it's just for photos and S's and G's or anything like that. I think that this is a guy who really has to know, and I think he does, that this is going to be a challenge, and you have to hit the ground running in OTAs so you can make sure you can hold on to that. Because whether people like it or not, all these quarterbacks that we've been talking about here over the last 3 weeks, they ain't walking through that door.
Correct.
Kyler Murray went up to Minnesota. You weren't even in consideration for him. More on him in just a moment. But you weren't even in consideration for a lot of these guys. So to make you feel any decent about this season, it has to be Shedeur.
Yes.
So it's on him to take the reins of that job, at least to start off the season, Danny.
100% it is. He needs to show up in the offseason. He needs to do all these things correctly. I don't know if he will or if he won't. It does seem like he has a good relationship with Todd Monken if you want to make that your reason for hope. But I think the only thing that could realistically make me feel worse about where the Browns are at right now is watching Deshaun Watson play quarterback. Whether or not he looks good in OTAs or not, like, that's a story we've seen before. Because we know it doesn't translate to Sundays with him anymore.
I got called out by one of my coworkers yesterday. Folks, I'll tell you right now, the guys I work with can stomp and pout and moan, but all I've done is tell them the truth the last 3 weeks because they can't accept it as their fault, not mine. I'll tell you that truth in 5 minutes on The Fan. Peter and Co.
This is Joe Checkeye for 92.3 The Fan.
Could the Browns have a new quarterback before the draft? Don't miss a minute of Browns offseason coverage. The radio home of the Cleveland Browns. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Kyler Murray anytime, okay? You want to be that way? Fine. I'm trying to keep an open mind on anything. You guys are sitting there busting my ass over Kyler Murray of all people. I'm not going to sit here and get in fights. I got guys calling me slurs on the internet over Kyler Murray. I'm sorry. If you guys are that worked up over Kyler Murray, you guys don't know what the hell you're watching. He's a waste of time. He sucks. I don't want to deal with it. How you like that? We want to do that? We want to get nasty? I'll get nasty. You guys want tough talking Ken? Tough talking Ken is here. You guys really think that Kyler Murray is going to save this sinking ship? Kyler Murray, please. See, I don't want to encourage people to call me slurs on the internet because then they think that they can poke the bear and then that's it.
It did work, though.
People can poke the bear, and that's happened for...
It works.
When did you start on the station, 2011?
It's worked for 14 years for certain people. Certain people. You, Keith, Lima, certain people. Okay?
I've got you a couple times.
You have?
Yeah.
You've worked me into a shoot?
When I told you that you were afraid and you freaked out?
Yeah, I don't like being called I'm afraid. I'm not. What am I afraid
that one
of?
Worked.
What was I afraid of? Do you remember what you called me afraid? I was afraid of?
I don't. It was a couple years ago. But you turned real red real quick.
Snakes.
Oh, I am afraid of airplanes and snakes.
You don't like airplanes?
Hell no, I don't like airplanes.
It's so easy to get around.
Oh, shut up.
Producers.
That's true.
Why am I afraid of producers?
Afraid to keep them around for too long.
It's not my... Hey, speaking of slurs, sir. We'll be moving on over there now, aren't we? Quiet on the Western Front. All right, do we have that clip I want? We did have that. Speaking of producers, thanks a lot, John. John's got something to get off his chest coming up at 8 o'clock this morning. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, even though I think a lot of Browns fans are going to go, oh, my gosh, shut this young man up. No. John has a wild idea for you Cleveland Browns. And I said, you know what? It's a Friday. Let's let him get it off his chest. Danny's going to join us this morning Danny's with us this morning. He's here the entire show from 6 to 10.
Every segment he'll leave, and then he'll walk back through the door. Danny,
well, he's got to go move his car because Mayor Business is only going to let you park for 2 hours around these parts. Anyway.
2 hours and 2 Cokes.
Yesterday, there was that argument that I got pushed to. I don't think Kyler Murray sucks, but I got pushed to it because Jason is one of the people that can push my buttons. And so I went on a tangent there. I got mad, went on a tangent. I don't think Kyler Murray sucks. I just don't think he takes this team ever to where it needs to go. And I guess I'd rather see what's in the mystery box. Not even who's on our roster. I'm talking about the mystery box of maybe a kid who's playing at USC or Ohio State or Notre Dame or Texas, depending on how this season goes. Maybe I'd rather do it that way. Nick Wilson got wind of this. Here's what Nick had to say yesterday about what I had to say about Kyler Murray and everything on Afternoon Drive.
The Browns do not have a quarterback plan until proven otherwise, and that's embarrassing. Because, and I really do think, it is a little infuriating to watch people who I know are super damn smart and who I listen to every day, like Ken. Kyler Murray's not better than what you had. You have to be deluded beyond reason to believe that. Do you understand the low bar that was last year?
Yeah, last year was a low bar.
If you're thinking, well, anything that is durable and quality is better than last year on the offensive line, and you'd be right, by the way, you have to say the same thing about the quarterback room. It was non-functional.
Well, yeah.
None of the and by the way, that's not on the quarterbacks. It's on what happened with the quarterbacks. But yes, you can there are better quarterbacks out than what you have, but this idea that you have to come back to, well, it's not a franchise quarterback, so it doesn't matter. Yes, it does. These things do matter. And you do have to have a certain amount of something in a quarterback room, and they don't now. I like the idea of Shedeur playing this year and Shedeur beating somebody out, and I understand that might be the best thing you can have to really understand what is Shedeur and give you path of hey, this quarterback can grow into something, right? That doesn't mean Shedeur and Shedeur alone should be the quarterback. But everyone is so anesthetized, and the Browns have just beaten you over the head with how bad and hopeless their offense is, that just everybody's just kind of going along with it.
That's Nick Wilson yesterday. First thing is what he said, I said about Kyler Murray. I said point blank yesterday on the show that Kyler Murray is better than what you have. I just don't think he's enough to take you where you eventually want to go.
Sure. He is not
maybe
good enough.
I'll end up being wrong.
He's not good enough to, getting back to what we were talking about last segment, he's not good enough to not see what you have in Shedeur because of. Because what's the end game if you sign somebody like Kyler Murray? You win 6 games this year. You win maybe if everything goes well, you win 7 games this year, and you're still in the same spot because we, again, similar to Deshaun, have all this data that this guy is not a franchise quarterback. He's been better than Deshaun, don't get me wrong, and I would so much rather have had him on this Browns team over the past 5 years than Deshaun Watson, but he's not worth that being your plan.
The second part of this is that Nick says there is no plan. This is where I took umbrage. I can take umbrage with being, I can deal with being misquoted. I'm like, I'll be on at 6 a.m. tomorrow. I can fix that. That's fine. This is what I took umbrage with. Guys, you're denying the truth. This is the plan. This is the plan. To say that we've been anesthetized by it because the Browns have hit us over the head with how bad their offense is, yeah, we see it every Sunday. You know who else saw it every Sunday? Or you know who else saw it over the offseason? Malik Willis, Kyler Murray, Aaron Rodgers, if you wanted to go that, Kirk Cousins, if you wanted to go down there. I mean, who are the other guys? Tua Tagovailoa. They all saw how bad it is. They don't want to be a part of it.
Why
the
would
Browns
you?
know they don't want to be a part of it. Guys, this is the plan. For better, for worse, and it usually is for worse, I've been the one who I feel is telling the truth here. I'm not selling any false hope. This is what it is. You put the kid out there, he either sinks or swims. There's not a lot of talent around him. He needs a lot of talent around him. There are deficiencies there. He probably sinks. It's the way she goes. But at least people will be interested in seeing him. You're more than likely right, and this is where I have a problem with, and I can bog it down if I want to, about whether or not Todd is going to do what's right for his football team, whether or not he even has the decision to make, whether it's his decision to make, whatever. I can bog it down all day long. But there's a lot of part of the plan where it's just like, hey, you know what? He's much more fun to argue about Shedeur Sanders is than any of the other guys we have in the room.
Oh, yeah.
We can't be robbing Peter to pay Paul for our future. We are still paying this albatross, which in my word, ask Troy Aikman, we're still paying this albatross that people don't even want to play. We got to face facts, guys. This is the plan. Unless they do pull something out of their ass coming up next month, and John's right, and they might end up taking another quarterback in the first round. A little preview of what's to come up at 8 o'clock, which I would not be a big fan of, to say the least.
That would be a terrible decision.
So,
I think that'd be awful.
Guys, you got to see the truth of it. What you see is the plan. You may not like it. You may not want to accept it, but you better. If you're going to have any interest in this team in 2026, this is it. Because you could try to go out and get those guys. And I know there's been plenty of reports, the Browns are interested in Malik Willis. He ain't interested in them. The Browns were interested in Kyler Murray. He's certainly the one guy in Arizona who's the reporter who has 130,000 followers. He goes, they weren't even part of the discussion. They weren't even in the 5 for the discussion for Kyler Murray. They ain't interested in you. You have to go out and you have to build and you have to do it piece by piece, and that takes time. So I hate to be the bearer of bad news here. I know it's been a long time. It's going to be even longer. When I said Browns prison, I meant it. It takes a while to get out of it. So here we are. This is the plan. It's not about me leading some cult. It's not about me believing in a quarterback and trying to sell you a snake oil that isn't true. This is the plan, guys. I hate to be so nasty about it. This is what it is. And anybody who's telling you different, they ain't seeing the truth. Flat out, plain and simple. 216-474-0092. You got anything else on that one, Danny?
It's
After I
plan.
just said what I said?
It's not a good plan, but it's kind of the only plan they can take. There's not another direction they can go. Kyler Murray doesn't make sense. Kirk Cousins doesn't make sense. Tua. All those names you listed off, they're not interested in the Browns. They shouldn't be interested in the Browns. Why would you be interested in the Browns? But I also think the Browns shouldn't have been interested in them either.
7:22 this morning. That's an interesting point you just made. 7:22 this morning. Some people are saying I need to respect the Detroit Pistons more, and I shouldn't be counting my chickens when it comes to the Cleveland Cavaliers. One sits in an office down the hallway from us. And if the Browns do this, you know what I just said and how kind of hopeless it sounded? They do this, I might change my tune real quick. I'll tell you what they could do. Coming up at 7:02 on The Fan. Take us with you to work on the free Odyssey app. Watch us on YouTube Live for absolutely, positively free.
This
desk. I'm Meredith Kane.
The NFL landscape can change at any moment. Free agency is open for business, and this is the place to talk about it. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Coming up at 8:20, the dangerous one, Daryl Ruiter. He ain't been that dangerous this week.
Not yet.
Daryl ain't been that dangerous.
There's time.
It's a Friday. It's time for danger.
I hope so. I hope he's dangerous. I want some damning opinion from Daryl coming up at 8:20 this morning. Also, Danny has such a great point about something Gus Johnson said last night that I'm jealous of him. What Gus Johnson said and what Danny's going to say coming up at 7:45 this morning and about last night. Danny said, I went, damn it, I wish I would have thought of that. So Danny is the one who's going to lead that one when it comes up at 7:45 this morning. 216-474-0092. All right, I want to get to the phones here in just a minute. However, there was conversation, and I'm not trying to beat everybody over the head with it. I can only just be honest with it. Like, this is the plan. You might not like the plan. This is and plans, by the way, plans change because of things that happened before. There's a cause and effect for everything. You don't get 3 first-round picks. Maybe you could have taken an offensive lineman at one of those points. You got to replace the entire front office, or you got to replace the entire offensive line. Your front office is forced to do that. And people look at that as like, well, Andrew Berry, you went 3 years without having a first-round pick. And I go, whose fault is that when it comes to that? So there's a lot of blame that kind of gets thrown around all this stuff that makes it a little bit tougher than what we want to deal with here. The conversation, though, then switched yesterday, and I'll tell you this. I don't want to be all doom and gloom. I just want to be honest. Danny's in for Lyman today. I don't know why I had to say that right then and there. It sounded like he's being doom and gloom.
Hello.
I just want to tell everybody.
Well, I mean,
Danny's
I can
here.
be if you want.
There was a conversation that happened yesterday about trading for a number 1 overall pick. Or not a number 1 overall pick, a number 1 wide receiver. Number 1 wide receiver. How much would that change our outlook going into the Cleveland Browns 2026 season? Danny?
Not much. Not
Why?
much at all. Because
Why?
I don't think that there are so many issues on this team. I don't think that if you do trade for a number 1 wide receiver, that eats up that much of your salary cap. And I don't know where you would get worse necessarily.
And you know how I
this
feel
year.
about the salary cap.
Doesn't exist. But I think that it doesn't make you better. It doesn't solve the real issues on this team. Is the wide receiver room good enough? Absolutely not. But that's not the biggest issue the Browns have. The Browns have so many other issues that if they trade for whatever number 1 wide receiver is available, that's not going to change the outlook of this roster. That's not going to make this team any significantly better in any way. It might make them marginally better, but it doesn't change who they actually are, which is a bad football team.
See, I got to disagree. If you traded for a number 1 wide receiver, I think it's not about being excited, Super Bowl, Super Browns. I think it's holding you to a standard. Holding you to a standard that you are planning to be significantly better, not trying to be, you are planning to be significantly better than what you were over the last 2 years. You've went out, you've made significant moves with this offensive line. You've decided with this offensive line and these moves that you made, and I want to ask Daryl about this coming up at 8:20. I think Rasheed Walker is still out there, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a possibility you could always bring him in. I know that they have some announcements that they're going to make today with some of the new guys that they have. But when you go out and you trade for Titus Howard, get Zion Johnson, get Elton Jenkins, bring back Tevin Jenkins there, I still don't know what you're going to do with the left tackle position. But when you replace 4/5 of the offensive line, when you already had Luke Whippler, when you already had Zach Zinter, I mean, you're telling people that you don't believe in those picks and that you're ready to either keep them as backups or move on, which fine. If you're going to cut bait. That's fair. Okay, no big deal. But if you were to make those changes on that offensive line, and then you go in and you go after a number 1 wide receiver, you make a trade for a number 1 wideout, I could sit here and get all afraid and scared of you making big moves when you're not ready to support that big move then, because I still got to get my quarterback situation figured out. But I would say, yep, this is still the plan. He's just going to have a number 1 wide receiver to throw to there, along with Jerry Jeudy, along with Isaiah Bond, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Which Jerry Jeudy and Isaiah Bond doesn't set the world on fire. No. But if you got number 1 wide receiver out there, then it would change that conversation. It's not about rah-rah to me. It's about holding them to a standard. And holding them to a standard means that you have to approach the playoffs this year because according to what your moves are telling me, if you were to make this move, according to what your moves you're telling me is that you believe there's an opening. Whether it be in this division, in this conference to make a wild card, whatever it is, you're telling me you see an opening.
And I don't think those things are true. I don't think that there's an opening.
Why
there.
is that?
Because I don't think there's an opening there. I think that this team
The Steelers are that much better than us?
No, but I think the Ravens are. I think the Bengals probably will be if they can stay healthy.
The Bengals are really that much better than us? That defense still sucks.
Ken, if they stay healthy,
that offensive line is still questionable.
If Joe Burrow stays healthy.
I don't know. I've been hearing about the great things that Joe Burrow's been doing here over the last how many years, and he hasn't done them in the last how many years. He's been injured.
Yeah,
we could say if he's been healthy for a long time, there's plenty of guys that we could say if they've been healthy that they'd be able to help out their football teams. Problem is he's never healthy.
That's fair, but there's not an opportunity for this Browns roster as it constitutes right now. If you add a number one wide receiver, the Browns are still nowhere near the top of this division. There's not an opening that a number one wide receiver for them, which who would that wide receiver be? Like, what wide receiver are we talking about that is theoretically available for them to trade for? And what is it going to cost for them to acquire this mystery wide receiver that's going to make them better?
It would certainly cost picks. I mean, it would certainly cost
like,
some of what you have.
Are you giving up number 24 to go get a number one wide receiver? What number one wide receiver is available that makes you good enough to do that stuff?
Hey, because the conversation was brought up yesterday. I'm just going over the conversation that happened yesterday. That's what I'm doing.
I just don't think that this is a move that, now, if it's a number one wide receiver that is still young, let's say for sake of throwing a name out there, Justin Jefferson, which is not happening. I'm not saying that's what it is, but just like that guy. Could he help you in the future? Does that make it worth it then? Sure, but I don't think it changes the outlook on what the ceiling for this team this year actually is. And if anything, and no one wants to use the tank word, but that's kind of what's happening here, it might actually, if it does help you a little bit, it might hurt your future because you have to find a way to get that quarterback. You brought up all those schools that have quarterbacks that could potentially be in the draft a year from now. One of those guys needs to be wearing an orange helmet in 18 months.
Well, how many picks do I have to give up for the number one wide receiver in this exercise?
Depends who it is, and it
okay.
Like I think not having a name makes this
to take him off
tough.
Your hands. I got to pay him, so I'd like to start with the second round pick. If I give up 24, that's fine. The future of it, like there could be something there for the future of it. But what I'm pointing out is like, listen, I can't give you a bunch of names that I'd sit there and I'd advocate for. I don't know if they're ready for a number one wide receiver yet. Excuse me, to trade for a number one wide receiver yet. You can go out and get one in the draft. Carnell Tate or Mekhi Lemon or anything like that, who did run a nice 40 time for me yesterday. You can go out and draft for one of those guys, but when it comes to trading for one of them, I think that there's a lot of things that hold you back. I'm just pointing out if they did it, my expectations for this football team change. My hope for this football team, I'm not sure it's got to change because of what they've done, and I have to hope for the best. But that's a force. That's not me saying, hey, I got a lot of faith in all these guys. Because the big argument has been our defense has been the best, one of the best in the NFL over each of the last 3 years.
Yep.
Now, we'll see how much a defensive coordinator really matters. We thought it mattered when it went from Joe Woods to Jim Schwartz. I think it did. I think it made Joe Woods look really, really bad. We'll see what Mike Rutenberg has in store, because if you keep this defense going well and this offense is able to do well, then we'll talk about him with other jobs in the NFL elsewhere.
Yeah.
But for this football team, if we always feel like we're closer because we have half of a football team there because the defense is so good, and the kicking game has been pretty good as well. The coverage has been terrible.
Awful.
You made a change with special teams because you got to think about three phases. But when you get to the offense, all right, if you made these changes within the offensive line, and then you went on and you made some sort of a trade for a number one wide receiver, I mean, you're telling people a lot of things that maybe you don't really want to say, but I just have to accept as a possibility here that you may think higher of Shedeur Sanders than what a lot of people are thinking of Shedeur Sanders, or B, you just think higher of your offense together that you could put it together as it is, and now you're really going to put Shedeur Sanders to the test. Or you want to create, I should say, and you want to create a possibility where any one of these quarterbacks that are what we consider retreads, also rans, guys who can save their careers, this becomes a better opportunity for them because you can't help but be a little bit better, a lot better offensively than where you were last year. That, I think, is the theory, Danny.
Those are all fair points, but I don't think that's going to be the thing that the Browns should be pursuing. I think that they should be pursuing to find a way to get a young quarterback, not a retread quarterback. Like, I don't think for all the conversation about, Kyler Murray, not interested in Cleveland. Tua, not interested in Cleveland. Malik Willis, not interested in Cleveland. Like, all those guys that were the hot quarterback names on the scrap heap. The Browns shouldn't have interest in those guys because they're not going to be the answer realistically. Is Malik Willis going to maybe be okay in Miami? I don't know. Maybe he's played 5 football games really in the NFL after being a high draft pick that didn't work out in Tennessee. Is Kyler Murray going to be the answer in Minnesota? I mean, Kevin O'Connell has history of being able to turn quarterback career around. Just look at Sam Darnold, but I don't think that he's the answer. Is Tua the answer here? I certainly don't think that's the case.
No.
Kirk Cousins? Absolutely not.
No.
Like, the Browns should not have been interested in these guys. That is, I think.
Well, they weren't interested in us.
Yes.
It goes both ways.
I think was the correct move on their parts, but the Browns should not have been interested in these guys either. Those guys were not interested in the Browns, partially because of the situation, which is the larger conversation about a wide receiver 1 here. But the Browns need to find a franchise quarterback that's young, too. And if you do trade for a wide receiver 1, I still think that's the play. Because then if you do find that retread quarterback, it's going to be on a shorter contract, and then you're going to have to pay said quarterback market value.
7:45, Danny has such a great point about something Gus Johnson said last night that I'm jealous of him, and he's going to get to say it coming up during About Last Night. In 5 minutes, I want to try to get to some people on this. 216-474-0092. Would a number 1 wide receiver, a bona fide number 1 wide receiver, change the way you feel about this football team going into 2026? After what they've done in free agency, after what they haven't done in free agency, would it change your outlook for Shedeur? Would it change your outlook for the QB position? Would it change your outlook for the entire 2026 NFL season? Or would even a drafted number 6 overall pick change that outlook for the entire 2026 season? And I got someone down the hallway in a great big office who says I need to watch my mouth when it comes to the Cavs playing the Pistons later on this year. Ken Carman, Anthony Lima is out. Danny Cunningham is in. You see how I saved that? Live on the Fan. Northeast Factory.
State and Akron tip off at 7:30. You can listen to The Fan Rewind weeknights from 11 p.m. to midnight. All the best segments from all our shows, and you can always listen on the Odyssey app. Headline sports news every 20 minutes on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Meredith Kane.
Nathan Zagura, 9 o'clock. How'd you feel if Andrew Berry did what Eric DeCosta and the Ravens did? How would you feel about Andrew? That coming up a little bit later on. Free agency is here, folks, and keep it locked on 92.3 The Fan for all the latest and breaking news, all powered by Exteriors Plus. Do I switch my dog's food real quick? She's doing this thing.
Well, tell me what's going on,
Well,
Kim.
she's doing this thing where she's picking out certain pieces of the kibble and just leaving it on the floor and then eating the other pieces of kibble. Is there a problem there?
No, I don't know.
Are there veterinarians listening right now?
Now, if you put that kibble back in the bowl, do those same pieces of kibble end up on the floor again?
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes,
That's
they do.
interesting.
That's I haven't heard of that. We've had to do that because of like skin and coat issues, right?
Okay.
Like being allergic to certain, chicken or salmon.
Is she telling us she's allergic to certain things?
No, I don't think that's
Oh,
it.
yeah.
If that's happening, then you should start picking, like have her do your college basketball bracket or something.
That'd be a great thing.
That'd be great.
Yeah, what?
Have you tried different kinds of kibble, or has it just been one kind? Maybe try a different brand.
I don't know what Liz buys her. I have no idea.
Maybe just try a different brand or a different flavor. See if it still happens.
That she'll pick out the kibble, that she still will pick out the kibble and do that?
See if she still does that. Maybe it's a flavoring thing.
It's a very odd thing. But I'll go home, and now there's been like bits of kibble all over the place. I'm like, what are we doing?
Kibbles and bits.
I didn't even mean to do that. I didn't mean to do that. That was fantastic. Danny, there's some people calling you out, by the way.
Who?
A lot of listeners who, when you said that we are so far behind the division, and a couple of people were like, hey, we beat two of the teams in the division last year.
Okay.
What do you mean, okay? That's not...
What was the record? What the Browns' record? What was the Browns' record?
They finished with 5 wins.
Where'd they finish in the division, Ken?
They finished last.
Okay, yeah.
Are you that far behind?
Yes.
I think I disagree.
I don't.
Why?
What? Okay, pull up the betting app of your choice and tell me how far behind they are in the odds to win
I don't
North.
need Johnny Vegas to tell me how I feel.
Tell me how much of a long shot it would be for the Browns to win the division.
I don't care about that. Go ask Jim Valvano about long shots. I don't care about that. I'm looking at the facts of what the teams are. You gave me Joe Burrow in the last segment. When's Joe Burrow been healthy? 1993? When's the last time Joe Burrow's been healthy? I'm answering. I'm asking.
It's been a couple of years.
Thank you. So how am I supposed to expect that he's going to be healthy here?
Look at the Ravens, Ken.
I mean,
how
we do this all the time with players. We do this all the time with players when we're like, oh, we can go get him. I go, yeah, what are you going to do in week 3 after he gets hurt? So you're saying what about what?
How far behind the Ravens are the Browns?
They're probably a little bit behind.
The Ravens were a massive
disappointment this last year.
Yeah.
That much is very true.
Yeah.
Now, I would expect them to be better than what they were. But I said, if you go out and you trade, the whole argument here was if you traded for a number 1 over or a number 1 wide receiver, or you picked up a number 1 wide receiver in that case, then how much closer would you be? And if your defense is that good, is your defense the best defense in the division? Yes.
Is your offense the worst offense in the division?
Yes, it is. But if you can make your offense somewhere in the middle there and guys can stay healthy and guys can play, you can be competitive within the division. That's the entire argument. I don't think right now, offensively, you might be very competitive within the division, but that's just coming off of last year. We'll see how the offensive line works. But I can only go by what I've seen, right? So if I'm only going by what I've seen.
Chart?
No, I just wrote it out real quick the other day, and I decided to keep it. That's what I did. If you're not that, you look at all 3 teams. All 3 of those other teams were said to be what? Disappointments this last year. Well, I don't know. Cincinnati has been kind of the same way over the last 3 years. Have they not been, Owen? Cincinnati's been basically the same thing over the last 3 years. Bad defense or struggling defense, struggling offensive line, even though I think their offensive line was a little bit better this last year, and a guy who can't stay healthy playing quarterback who runs the entire franchise. And you got remarkable wide receivers, but it doesn't really matter when you have terrible other suck-ass quarterbacks who have to throw to these guys because your franchise quarterbacks can't stay healthy. You got Pittsburgh that just had a Zoom with Kyler Murray, and then he signed with the Minnesota Vikings over there. So you're either trying to bring in Will Howard or bring up Will Howard, which I liked Will Howard. I'm not going to sit there and badmouth Will Howard over this. I liked him coming out of Ohio State. You're either going to try to elevate Will Howard, you're going to try to bring back Aaron Rodgers. You might be in the market for somebody else at some point at that point, but you're kind of running out of options there. So if you wanted to do something like that, okay, but I'll put our situation up against theirs. Aaron Rodgers is 42 years old, so he's old. Yeah. So I'll put my offensive situation up against theirs. When you have the Ravens got you. But the Ravens are supposed to have you. Mm-hmm. The Ravens are supposed to have you, Danny. So even though it feels like you're far off, in NFL senses, you are a bit off.
Yeah.
No doubt. But in the real world here, you're really not that far off. This isn't like it's Ohio State and Akron right now.
No, but you look at it and say, okay, let's say that Pittsburgh takes a step back. Let's say they're finally not above 500 for the first time basically in my entire lifetime. Let's say
Mike McCarthy's basically another version of Mike Tomlin,
I
but
agree,
whatever.
but just for the sake of this discussion, let's say that. So let's say that the Pittsburgh Steelers are a disappointment this year.
Okay.
Let's say that the same thing that has happened with the Bengals. Joe Burrow gets hurt, and that defense stinks, especially now that they lost Trey Hendrickson.
Are we as far behind the rest of the division as Danny thinks? 216-474-0092. Go ahead.
So let's say that happens, too. Let's say the Browns are in the same conversation with those two teams. Does that make the Browns good, or does that make those other teams just stink, too? Because you can say, okay, maybe they're not so far behind, not so far behind the rest of the division, but that doesn't mean they're close to actually being competitive.
So
because there is still one team in Baltimore that is way ahead of the Browns.
So what are we doing here now? Hold on. Are you saying it's not even good for us to be competitive within the division because the division isn't as good as what it's been in the last 20 years? Because this year was not a great year for the division.
It was the worst year ever.
Are you saying that we're playing with fool's gold over here, a la like the NFC South might be, because the NFC South or the AFC South especially has been historically bad at times?
If you finish with 7 wins in a bad AFC North and don't sniff the playoffs, because 7 wins ain't sniffing the playoffs in the AFC, is that really that much better than finishing with 5 wins in a good division? Is that much different because you beat 2 other bad divisional opponents? Does that really change who you are as a football team?
I don't understand what you're going with.
I'm saying that you're still far away. Even if you're closer because there are 2 other bad teams in this division potentially, that doesn't mean that you're actually closer to being good.
Well, as of right now, you're not. But the whole principle,
right?
Like Craig and a couple other people on social media, which is brought to you by
Scheiben Jewelers, Cleveland's premier jewelry store.
7:28 and 21 seconds for those scoring at home. Is if you were to make a move for a number 1 wide receiver, that you would be closer to these teams that you can compete with, because all you have to do is compete within your division. If you compete within your division, then you should be able to compete for a division championship, which they haven't won since 1989, so let's not be crazy about this. Or also, if you are competitive in your division, you should be, wins-wise, in a mode where you could possibly compare or compete for a wild card position. So if they were to make some strong moves, while I really don't believe that it would benefit them long term, because I still think we would find ourselves in the same position. I think a lot of people say, damn that, I don't care. Go out there and try to find a way to win and get yourself into the postseason. I think fans would feel a lot better if you were able to do that, especially even if the quarterback struggles and you go, the rest of the team is good. I just don't believe – I'm not going to sit there and rip on the Browns all day long unless they deserve it, and the Browns in some cases do deserve it, but I'm not going to compare them with the rest of the division. I don't think the rest of the division is good, and you're leaving me no odds, because now you're saying not even to compete with the other teams in the division because the other teams in the division aren't even any good, so it's fool's gold.
It would be fool's gold.
So what am I supposed to do then, Danny?
Not trade for number 1 wide receiver because it doesn't help you in the long run.
It might not help me in the long run, but I got a general manager who has to worry about his job and completing his vision. The last draft was good. The previous 5 drafts, let's not talk that much about those.
They were not good.
The last draft was good. If this coming up draft is good, then you might have some more gold in them there hills where you could support making a trade for a number 1 overall wide receiver.
Well, we need to see this draft be good before you can do that.
Well,
can you count on that happening with him?
You can't make a lot of these trades before the draft, after the draft.
Can you count on that happening?
Count on what?
So what I'm saying is maybe you are a year away.
That happening, but
you are a year away from making this trade.
I can't count on that happening, but you're acting as if we are just like this so far behind organization within the rest of the division. I could say we're so far behind a lot of teams in the NFL, but when it comes to this division, I think the division has more come back to us instead of us raising our level to the division.
And I'm
not going to blame the Browns for the failures of the other 3 teams in the division. That's their fault, not the Browns. Browns got to figure out their own problems, obviously. But damn it, I'm not going to all of a sudden think that the Ravens and the Steelers and the Bengals are so much better than ours, because I don't think that they are.
Some of the teams in the division coming closer to the Browns does not give the Browns an opportunity because they have to rise to. You don't just create an opportunity because other teams in your division stink. You have to actually be good. You have to find ways to win games against non-divisional opponents.
So if the offer is made to be able to get a fictitious number one wide receiver, and I still have Myles Garrett, and I still have Denzel Ward, and I still have gold in them their hills with this football team, I'm supposed to just pass up on it because the rest of the division is bad. Am I really supposed to do that and waste their time? I'm supposed to have these guys for a reason. They're competitive, good football players. It's not just so people buy some tickets, apparently.
No, it has to be independent of the division. It has to be because it's a move that makes sense for the team, not because the Steelers and Bengals might stink.
But how can it not make sense for the team if I'm playing these teams
we don't know what the
six times in a year? If I'm playing these teams 6 times in a year and that guy gives me a better chance to conduct an offense with Shedeur Sanders, it gives me a better chance to open up a running lane for Dylan Sampson and Quinshon Judkins. Aren't I going to be a better football team? Won't I be in more football games? Yes, yes, and yes. And if I can beat those teams in the division, nothing is weighted because of your division, except for tiebreakers. But nothing is weighted because of your division. I don't get a strength of schedule loss because I got to win against a Cincinnati Bengals team with an injured Joe Burrow. A win is a win is a win.
That's correct, and that's fair, but I don't think that is a move that gets you to where you want to be.
So what do I do to get better here, Danny?
You're going to have to suck it up and be bad this year, and you have to find a franchise quarterback. None of this can. And if you do, let's get back to the draft thing, because you mentioned last year's draft was awesome for Andrew Berry, and for the most part it was. And the 5 before it, we don't want to talk about because they were bad, and he's not shown a consistency as a draft guy. Let's say the Browns have another draft this year.
Bad position to be in as a general manager.
Yeah, not good. Let's say they have a draft this year that mirrors last year's success. That'd be great for the Browns. Then I think a year from now, that is when you are legitimately in a position to make this type of move. I think you're a year away from making the type of move that we are talking about right now. I do. But I think 12 months from now, it could make all the sense in the world that it doesn't make sense right now.
I have bickered with you over the last five minutes.
Yeah.
I do believe that what you just specified is the plan. I think if there's a number one wide receiver out there, I think that they would kick the tires on it because I think Andrew Berry loves a trade for wide receivers, clearly. But I don't think that they would go through with it. I think that this is really very much the plan. I think they are trying to position themselves to start to really build success in 2027, which is why I have a very controversial opinion that I'm probably going to bring out next week about what their plans are with certain people in this franchise. Okay? I'm not going to say it yet, because I got to think about this first before I say it next week.
You just don't want to say it to me.
That's not true. I'll say it to you.
That's how I feel.
I'll say it to you later on. I'm workshopping it in my head right now because I can't say it right now, because if I say it right now, it might be a little bit irresponsible of me to say it right now. What?
Well, you go ahead and say it, man.
Say it.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah. What could go wrong?
I wanted to get to the Pistons disrespect thing is what I wanted to do.
We got time for that.
No, we don't.
Say it real quick. Then maybe it'll come back to haunt you. Maybe it won't. Who knows? There's only one way to find out. Let's do that.
Say it.
I'm not done getting my argument ready yet. I can't make an argument for something I'm not done with. I can't just go off
and then if
half-cocked.
you want to change it later, you just change it.
That's not how that works.
We'll put an asterisk by it.
No, because you guys will. No,
the internet will definitely asterisk this.
People will understand. They'll go, oh, he changed it. Okay.
They will not understand. They will call me a flip-flopper, and I'm not going to do
that. Doesn't happen.
You guys are both lying. Don't insult the listener's intelligence.
Listen how high my voice is.
Yeah, that's why I don't believe you, because you don't talk to me like that unless you're trying to lay a trap.
It's just us.
No, it's not. Your college basketball coach is listening over there from Lake Erie College.
Yeah, sure
it's
is.
not just us. It's
Shout
us and
out to
basketball
Kyle
guys. Kyle Conley, I don't know if he'd like my opinion of this right now.
Well, let's find out.
No.
He'll text me afterwards.
No, I'm not going to do it. You'll find out maybe next week. Maybe you won't at all. Maybe I'll sit here and I'll have a couple of drinks later on tonight. Okay? Tonight's my dear late mother's birthday. Have a couple of drinks, maybe go into the basement, and I'll hold Mom's urn, which actually she's still in a box because I wanted to use some of her ashes to plant a tree in the backyard later. I know, well, it feels like where the red fern grows. I'm going to hold Mom's ashes later on tonight, have a glass of whiskey, have another glass of whiskey. I'm going to throw my idea by Mom, and I'm going to ask her what she thinks of that idea. And she may tell me it's a really stupid idea. Because that's what my mom's become, a Browns football Ouija board. supposed to say something.
I
Something.
can't wait to see the AI photo of that. And go ahead with your Pistons hate.
Just tell us the idea.
That's a little much to say on my mom's birthday, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was.
Okay.
I didn't know how I was supposed to respond to that.
However you feel, Mom would have supported either way, I guarantee you.
I didn't know her.
I did not give the Pistons any thought at all. Our boss thought that I was disrespecting the Pistons, and I might come back to those words might come back to haunt me. Speaking of the words I don't want to say about certain moves that the Browns could make this next year and to position themselves to go after the real gusto here, he said the words that I said could come back to haunt me, like my dear mother, later on this year if I was so disrespectful to the Pistons. I just think that the Pistons, I know we don't have a lot of time, I just don't think the Pistons are I don't think we're a good matchup for the Pistons at all, and I don't think they paid their dues yet in the postseason. I think they'll try to get physical. I just don't think guys try to get physical, but you still don't know how to pay the price in the postseason, and I think the Cavs do.
Well, and I think that
at least against teams like that.
I understand. I agree completely with what you said. Like, the Cavs present matchup problems for Detroit that I don't know that Boston does. And I certainly don't think the Knicks do against the Pistons. I'm not trying to say the Cavs are a better team than the Celtics certainly right now, because I don't believe that to be true.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the Cavs present very specific matchup problems for Detroit, and styles make fights in the postseason. Like, the Pistons right now are a great defensive team. They don't have enough offense. Their best shooter is a guy that we have watched try to play in playoff series against the Cavs, and that's not going to happen. I can assure you of that. Duncan Robinson keeps that offense afloat, and he can't play against the Cavs in the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
That is a matchup that I think would go really poorly for Detroit. I'm not going to say the Cavs would sweep them, but that if you look at the top 4 teams in the East and you power ranked the confidence level you would have for the Cavs to beat them, the Pistons are the team the Cavs should be the most confident they would beat 4 times in 7 games.
By the way, what's the line tonight against the Mavs?
13.5.
13.5. Of course, the Mavs come back here on Sunday to play against our Cleveland Cavaliers. That Cavs conversation brought to you by the fine folks at Surfside Hard Iced Tea, who ask you to please enjoy your hard iced tea from Surfside responsibly. Maybe not pull out a box of your mom's ashes and talk to it.
Is that responsible?
While you're having the hard iced tea. As long as you're not bothering anybody and not out there on the roads, that might be pretty responsible.
It's fair. Hard to argue that.
You know, the wife did it in draft day. She was standing out there with a football. Nobody said anything to her while she was talking about her late husband. I stand there with my mom's ashes, ask her Browns questions. All of a sudden, I'm a weirdo? Okay. I wanted to make sure. Coming up next.
Just a cherry on top.
Danny had such a great point earlier before the show about something Gus Johnson said last night that I'm actually jealous of him. He gets to share that with all of you coming up at About Last Night in 5 minutes on The Fan. Classic Chevy and Menor. I want to
happen around the globe that we never hear of.
Embarrassing. We got to be better on defense. It won't matter till April. I think we know that. Y'all gonna write us off. We could go 82-0. No one would care.
He's a piece of crap. The kid, he sucks. He's sucked his whole career.
I got rumors about him. He couldn't please his wife, so now he's divorced.
Put a damn winning team on the field.
Now the Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima give their thoughts on what you might have missed about last night.
Well, you missed something big from Gus Johnson last night. He's calling one of those tournament games, and he starts talking about UConn women's basketball. And, well, he made a... What are you laughing at?
Nothing. Go, John. Go.
All right. Well, he made a pretty wild claim that I think a lot of Browns fans might be familiar with the concept.
The University of Connecticut is literally the cradle for champions. It's with the men and the women. Yeah, exactly. The women, it's not even fair.
Yeah, Gino's on
it's
the
just
road.
not fair.
Gino's on the road again.
They should put that women's team in the WNBA.
His wine
I
list
bet you they'd go to the playoffs.
I would guess. His wine list.
They might even win it.
I agree with Gus.
No, this is
Danny?
the most ridiculous thing. And the first thing I thought of when I heard this is the Browns. Because this is forever. We've had to hear. Could Alabama beat the Browns? When the U was really good in the early 2000s. The U could beat the Browns.
Mm-hmm.
When Ohio State won the championship in 2014 and then again a couple of years ago, they could beat the Browns. None of this could happen. But I thought of the Cleveland Browns. The first thing that I heard of, or that I thought of, was the Cleveland Browns because of that comparison. And then I thought, you know what? This actually feels like equality here. Because for the fact that there's this outrageous take about a women's sport that we have had to hear that is an equally outrageous take with football forever and ever, tells me that the WNBA is doing okay if someone has this asinine of a take in Gus Johnson. Because no, UConn would not make the playoffs in the WNBA. They would not come close. Not even remotely close in that league.
I am jealous that you had that thought.
Thank you.
Actually jealous that you had that thought because it was such a good thought. You really think you agree with Gus that UConn can make the WNBA playoffs?
I'm not betting against Gino Auriemma ever.
I think you can. I don't think there's a chance in hell. I was awakened to it when Caitlin Clark went in the league, and I was watching her and Angel Reese, and I saw Angel Reese do so well at LSU and then struggle her first year in the WNBA, and I go, oh my God, this is really, really, really hard. This is really, really hard to be good in that league. There's 12 teams, right? So you're taking the elite of the elite of the elite in the WNBA. No, they would get boat race. I don't know who's at the bottom of the WNBA. I'm going to guess Golden State, the Valkyries. They would boat race UConn.
Yes. And part of the thing with the WNBA that makes this so true, you mentioned 12 teams, and obviously the league is expanding. The roster size is only 12 women. So you have only 144 women in the WNBA. Like, that is how talented. It's not like the NBA where you've got these roster sizes that are 15 standard contracts and then 3 two-ways. So you're over 450 guys in the league. The league is so small. The talent is so concentrated in the WNBA that it makes this actually more impossible than in any sport other than football.
I can't believe you would slam the Valkyries like that. They were a playoff team last year.
They were
23-12. We all talk about it on the WNBA forums.
They were the 8th seed. The Dallas Wings were the worst team. The Dallas Wings were 10-34.
And who was their best player? Paige Beckers. From UConn, who was the best player in
Chicago Sky,
last year.
also 10-34.
She was the best player that UConn has had for some time, I would argue.
You think she's better than Brianna Stewart?
That's a long time ago.
I don't know. That's a strong thing to say. I'll just finish it up with this. I think that the Dallas Wings, considering what I learned, and I obviously still have to learn, I got to brush up on my Golden State Valkyrie basketball, especially with Cleveland getting a team. It would be like one of those high school girls basketball games that end up making the news because a team wins by like 70 or 80.
Yes.
Like, that's what that would be. That's how bad of a beating it would be. That's how elite you have to be in the WNBA.
They
agree
would
with
come
Danny.
nowhere near the playoffs. But this is the same thing that we've heard with college football teams.
True.
Oh, could they beat the Browns?
And
no, they can't.
And you're right. I thought it was asinine when they do in the NFL, and I think it's definitely asinine for him. I love Gus Johnson, but that's an asinine thing in the WNBA. Go ahead there, John.
We know Miami basketball lost yesterday. They broke that undefeated stretch. And this is what Travis Steele had to say after the loss.
We won the regular season. We'll play whatever bracket that they got. Right? UMass had to play early. We had to play early. It's all the same. But you do want to probably protect those top seeds, right? Like, what's the reward that you get for going undefeated in the MAC regular season play? I think they just need to look at it. I'm not saying there needs to be a change. I'm not going to use that as an excuse. We lost the game. UMass played well. They kicked our tails around the glass, around the rim. But, like, they probably should look into it. I mean.
So are you saying he's making excuses?
I don't disagree with what he says. I think that if you do that, you have the.
What's the problem?
I don't like that he's whining about it a little bit. This has been this way for.
Well, he did just say they kicked their tails all around the glass, and they did. They nearly doubled them in rebounds.
But
they had an 11-point lead with a few minutes left to go, and then let that one slip away.
I think 10 minutes left in the game. They were up 11.
But this is how it's been forever in college basketball, where teams have to kind of go through a gauntlet to win that conference championship.
I wouldn't call this a gauntlet.
Did I make up for
they
not
lost to UMass?
That's true. Did I? Yeah, that's not really a gauntlet.
It's not like they played Duke.
It's true.
It's not
or even
a
Akron.
good coach.
But you have to win games.
Let's call UMass what they are. They're not a great team. This is a game they should have won. Now, the thing
I don't think they're an insult to like Julius Erving or Marcus Camby or anything. I mean, they're not great.
But like this is, if you go 31-0, this is a very clear disappointment. Now, the one thing that I will say that I wish the MAC did differently, I think it would have been better for the conference and probably Miami had this game not been played at 11 o'clock in the morning. You have this national story that everyone wants to have eyes on. Whether or not they win or lose, I think the MAC should have wanted a lot of eyes on that basketball game. And the fact they played it at 11 o'clock in the morning on a Thursday morning, I think is a really poor move by the conference.
I know like 4 people who have ever gone to the University of Toledo, but I know that Toledo would agree with your statement. And I want to ask you this. Did I make up for not knowing who his brother is? Because
by cursing them, yes.
No.
Way to go.
I put it in his head, the 11 o'clock game.
Oh, maybe.
Dude, you don't put your 1 seed at 11 o'clock.
Yeah,
you want all the guys
right on that.
Get.
Like, if they put that game at 5 or 7, if you put it at 7 and at 8 o'clock at night, people are going, wait a minute, this is a close game.
Turning it on.
Clicking over. Yeah.
You're right.
Even the WBC flexed Mexico and Italy.
Every tournament, when you have a number 1 seed, you're supposed to protect your number 1 seed as best you can or give them almost every advantage because they've earned the number 1 seed.
Now, would you let them choose their time?
That would be amazing if you let them do that.
I think there should be, at this level of basketball, at the mid-major level of basketball, when you get to these tournaments, you should allow the 1 seed to pick their opponent.
I've always wanted to do that.
I think that'd be
I've
awesome.
always wanted to do that. I think it'd be amazing. I think it'd be amazing if that team chose its opponent and lost.
Yeah.
I think it would be. I think it would add so much. I want that to happen. We kicked that idea around in baseball, didn't we, a while ago?
Yeah.
I think
wanted
it's
that
tougher
to happen
to do it
so
at the
badly.
professional level.
American Association.
But when you are at the mid-major level and you kind of need some sort of gimmick like this to add a little bit of attention to your conference tournament,
Totally agree.
why hasn't a conference like the MAC or the Sun Belt done this?
And that's it for About Last Night, John?
Yeah, that's it.
All right, I want you to stay because coming up in 5 minutes now, we got Daryl coming up at 8:22. Rasheed Walker's still out there. Could the Browns go 5 for 5 when it comes to free agent offensive linemen? I want to ask Daryl about that at 8:22. And according to old Johnny Boy, old Johnny Cakes, a new savior for your Cleveland Browns might be hiding in plain sight. I think a lot of you guys are going to agree with John. Coming up here in 5 minutes on The Fan. Window Nation and windownation.com. I want you to agree with me on at least one thing here.
That's 92.3 The Fan on YouTube. Headline Sports News every 20 minutes on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Meredith King.
Catch Afternoon Drive with Nick Wilson and Jonathan Peterlin live on YouTube each and every weekday from 2 to 7 p.m.
Real quick, I'm already getting the stuff from Kent State fans. You know, you guys show up on the internet. You guys don't show up in real life. I don't know what else to tell you.
Wow, spoken like an Akron alum.
They don't. It is well documented. Akron has a much better student section than Kent State. Well documented. Did I ever tell you the prank that the AK Rowdies did when I was in college?
I'm not aware of it.
No, it was one of the best things ever. Before John Boy goes here, John went to Penn State. They have their big whiteouts, 100,000 strong, the whole
it's
thing.
Matt Campbell Day here in the studio.
Yeah, it is. He finally found out why I have a bunch of Penn State and Iowa State stuff, and he's learning.
How long did it take?
How long have you been here?
It took a month, but he got it. Right. So anyway, I'm getting a bunch of Kent State stuff. I get a bunch of Kent State grief from people. I'm like, you guys show up on the internet, but where it counts in the stands, you don't. And one of the greatest things I ever saw, I wasn't a part of it. I kind of wish I was. The student group was called the AK Rowdies back in the day. I think it still are. And they had somebody, I don't know who they did. They called Kent State, got a hold of their athletic department, and said, hey, I lead an organization of Kent State Stark students who are big Kent State fans. We want to go to the game. We want to sit with the student section. Whoever was in charge at that time goes, great, yeah, we'll get you tickets. How many you need? Like 100, 200? I don't know what it was. It was something like a lot of tickets, right? So they get like a ride over there, and they're all like, yeah, we're Kent State Stark guys. And then before the game started, they all took off their stuff. They were all wearing Akron stuff. And it wasn't even a fight. And I thought it was one of the greatest Trojan horses I've ever seen in Mid-American Conference sports. Is it as good as some of the other stories that you're going to have out there with Ohio State, Michigan, and USC?
Trojan horses.
Yeah, but you don't find the other things like that in the Mid-American Conference. Here at Akron, you do. And I thought it was a great gesture by the students at the great University of Akron. Plus, Kent State, you guys all act like you're in the Ivy League. Stop. You're 8 miles down the road. We all got into both schools. Stop. You guys are stupid. Oh, we are we? Okay. I got into both schools, guys. I got into both. I went to Akron.
Have great aviation programs, right?
Yes, we do.
And yet you're scared of planes.
Polymer. Rubber. We take care of it. Go Zips. I don't got anything against Kent, except when they start to, Kent, do you need me to help you read this? Why? Because you went to Kent? Please. Please. You know the idiots I knew in high school who went to Kent, who I partied with at Kent State? You know the morons I grew up with who went to Kent?
Ken, I'm currently raising a couple of those idiots.
And I didn't grow up with your kids, so that's the beauty of it. And when they graduate from Kent, I'll go right back to it. That's the fun of this argument. All right, John. Who is the savior for the Cleveland Browns that's hiding in plain sight, buddy?
I think it's Ty Simpson. I'm not saying.
Do you guys want to hear more about Kent State-Akron rivalries? Or God, Ty Simpson, 216-474-0092. Go ahead, John Boy.
I don't think that this should happen. I don't want it to happen. But I think it's going to happen because of what Ty Simpson has said about Todd Monken this entire process.
Oh, you think it's going to happen?
Yeah.
Because why? Because he's saying nice things.
Yeah. Because this
you
is
got
what,
anything to back this up?
This is what Ty Simpson said on Up and Adams with Kay Adams yesterday.
He recruited me at Georgia. I had a great relationship with him, and then him coaching at Southern Miss. Him and my dad got to know each other pretty well. So I've known him for a long time. And then when I got to meet with them at the Combine and got to meet with them on a 30 visit. It was, just something, there's a, personality about him that, he kind of has that chip on his shoulder to where, he wants to, take the league by storm with his offense. And, he's very genuine and, cares about his players and cares about his coaches. And, the proof is in the pudding when it comes to, offense, right? Like you saw what he did with, at Georgia, saw what he did with Lamar, it just kind of, I think it's a quarterback-friendly system and a guy who is willing to, change and adapt.
So he said nice things about Todd Monken, so he's going to go there? He's going to get drafted?
No. This is in a league.
He just said yes.
In a league, that's not what I meant. In a league where coaches are getting fired in year one, after year one, you're not going to want to draft a guy that you know and that you know is coachable. His father's a head football coach. This guy is coachable. He has shown things at Alabama.
What does Shedeur Sanders' dad do?
I think he coaches football.
Yes, but does Shedeur Sanders, does Todd Monken have a relationship with Shedeur Sanders' father right now?
He recruited Shedeur Sanders, didn't he?
Didn't the Browns' last quarterback coach have a good relationship with Shedeur Sanders' dad?
It's the only backup quarterback that Deion Sanders ever talked about publicly.
Has Todd Monken gotten a porcelain horse head from Ty Simpson?
No.
Got one from Shedeur Sanders.
Support your,
what else you got to support that argument there, John?
This is a guy that's coachable. He has done a lot of things in college.
I would certainly hope so.
He's done a lot of things in college. And
Are you saying Shedeur Sanders isn't coachable?
I'm saying that Ty Simpson has a great relationship with Todd Monken. Wait a
minute. I saw photographic proof that Shedeur Sanders has a great relationship with Todd Monken.
Porcelain horse that says
Porcelain horses.
Do you think it's out of the realm of possibility for the Browns to draft Ty Simpson anywhere?
No, it's not out of the realm of possibility, but I think the reasons you're giving me are absolutely nuts.
I don't see where these things are connected.
And then, so Ty Simpson was asked if he's going to the draft. He doesn't know yet, but he said he would go if he was invited.
All right.
If you go to the NFL draft, and you do not get picked in the first round, that's embarrassing.
What's that got to do with the Cleveland Browns, though, John?
So you think that if Ty Simpson goes to the draft thinking he's going to go in round one and he doesn't get drafted, that's what happened to Will Levis. He didn't get drafted. He lost his girlfriend to Morgan Wallen because of that, which is true. That's a real thing that happened.
What are we doing here?
I think if you're going to go to the NFL draft, you have a pretty large chance. If you think of getting picked in the first round.
Well, yeah, but there's other teams that can draft. The Browns don't have all 32 picks, John.
I'd feel a lot better if we did.
I tell you what, we're going places.
How do you even know he wants to come to Cleveland, John?
He's been saying it the whole time.
Yeah, I'm setting you up to play the clip here, John. I've tried it 3 times. Play the clip.
So, John, you want him to play the clip,
I
John?
want him to play Simpson, too, that I'm trying to set him up.
Yes.
Because he went on to this rambling thing about how Morgan Wallen stole a girl.
You can't see it, though. All right, John, now set him up and say.
This is what Ty Simpson said about wanting to play for the Browns. Can I play the damn clip? Because he wouldn't let me turn my mic on. Can I play the clip?
Yeah, press play.
That's something that you got to ask Coach Monk and Mr. Berry. I think it'd be great. They got it going up there. Coach Monk's going to get it right. You know, they got all the right pieces. If I'm able to throw the Carnell, it'd be great. It would be something that, we'd always be on the same page, and, hopefully it would take the league by storm.
Tate at 6, Simpson at 24 or 39.
Wow. Because of that.
Yes.
I don't want to
Because Ty Simpson said nice things about Todd Monken and the Browns?
Yeah.
So
you don't think that Todd Monken has been...
So if Ty Simpson says nice things about Todd Monken and the Browns, I'm supposed to completely disregard what Ty Simpson said about the Jets?
It was great, just talking ball, getting to know each other. Coach Wright is a great human being. Coach Glenn is a super juiceful guy. Installing some stuff and getting to know each other and just getting on the board is what I like. So I really love the Jets. Really blessed to be able to have a meeting with them. And if I have an opportunity to play in New York, that like I said, they're going to get the best Ty Simpson they can get.
How am I supposed to trust Ty Simpson when he just said he loves the Jets? John?
That might make him undraftable.
Ken. He only said it about one team, Ken, and one coach, right?
He did?
Oh,
wait a minute. Was he asked about the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Yeah, it was great. Met with them. Coach McCarthy's the guy, man. It was funny. Like we would go in there, ask a couple questions, and we were just talking ball, going back and forth, talking about pass concepts, talking about protection, talking about situations. And it was cool to see all the quarterbacks he's worked with Dak, and Aaron Rodgers, and then situations that's come up in his career that hey, asked me about, and what I thought about it, and it was really cool because we were just going back and forth, and by the time that we were finished, it was like, it felt like 5 minutes just because of how much fun we had. So, I love Coach McCarthy, love the Steelers, I love those guys, and I'm super excited to get to know them.
Well, now I don't know if I could trust this guy at all. He loves everybody.
How many teams can
if
one
you love
guy
everybody,
love?
you love nobody.
Better worry about him loving his girlfriend.
Bet your ass. Tell you that right now. John, answer me. How do I trust Ty Simpson? He loves 3 different teams on record.
he has the relationship with Todd Monken, the pre-existing relationship. He's been talking about the Browns. Yes, he's talked about these other teams. Everybody talks about these other teams. But you're not going to tell you're telling me that you've been saying everybody on this station has been saying that Todd Monken needs to try to win in year one. And you're going to tell me that taking Carnell Tate and taking Ty Simpson is not going to at least give him the opportunity to win?
Taking a guy who started 15 games in college is giving him the opportunity to win right now?
Yeah.
No.
I think so. I think he gives you a way better chance than Shedeur Sanders or Deshaun Watson.
No.
Yeah. No. I mean, you guys have been saying bring in quarterbacks, bring in these veteran quarterbacks. Why not bring in Ty Simpson? If he sucks, then next year you get to pick from an insane draft class.
So Owen knows how this is going to go. Is that in next month they're going to take Ty Simpson in the first round. I'm going to have to hide under the desk, and John's going to be screaming at me the entire Friday morning.
I can't wait for anything more than them to draft Ty Simpson.
I'm not saying that I would do it.
And the weekly battle that we will have on this show.
It would be great for the show.
I just thought it was nuts, John, that you thought that we're going to take Ty Simpson just because he's saying nice things about Todd Monken and the Cleveland Browns.
I think that people...
they can't see you shrug your shoulders, John.
Listen, I've heard nothing but nice things about Todd Monken. I've never heard any other coach get heralded.
He just said he just called Mike McCarthy the man or the guy. Yeah, the guy.
But
he's the guy.
Yeah, I know that Mike McCarthy's. Mike McCarthy gets run out of Dallas. He gets run out of Dallas. Gets run out of Green Bay.
Todd Monken got run out of Cleveland. Todd Monken got run out of Baltimore.
This is Todd
Monken hasn't been given a chance to be a head coach until now. And how old is he?
Yeah, and that's why he's going to draft 60. Ty Simpson, because he needs to give himself some sort of jolt, make some sort of splash.
That's not how drafting works in Cleveland. Todd Monken will not be the one doing the picks.
No, if you think Andrew Berry's
there's a reason that two of them came in and one of them left.
How often have the Browns overdrafted a quarterback?
There's a reason that Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski came together, and that there's a reason that Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski came into this together, and Kevin Stefanski is the one that's on the outs. He's the one in Atlanta now. Andrew Berry, still here. He will be the one that makes the pick.
I'm not saying I want this to happen. I'm not saying it should happen. I think it's going to happen.
Based on what you just said?
Yeah.
Based on press conferences and him saying he likes Todd Monken.
And based on their relationship, based on the way that I mean, we've been talking about Todd Monken on this station for the last
Pony could do this same segment.
I don't know if you notice what the colors of the station are or who we are the home of. But
what position Todd Monken holds.
We talk a lot of Todd Monken here.
But you've been talking a lot of Ty Simpson here.
We've talked way too much Ty Simpson here.
In fact, Todd Monken.
So we've said Ty Simpson's name enough that we might not say it again for a month. Or he's going to show up Candyman style.
Could the Browns be still adding to their offensive line this morning? Daryl Ruiter gives us the latest. Ken Carman, Danny in for Tone on the Fan.
can listen to The Fan Rewind weeknights from 11 p.m. to midnight. All the best segments from all our shows, and you can always listen on the Odyssey app. Headline Sports News every 20 minutes on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Meredith Kane.
Back at the Fan. Let's welcome in the dangerous one, Daryl Ruiter. Who's he brought to you by, Owen?
Shivan Jewelers, Cleveland's premier jewelry store.
Thank you very much. Good morning, dangerous one.
Hello, boys.
It's good to talk to you. Daryl, I want to ask you about Ty Simpson later on. Young John is licking his wounds from the previous segment there. But I want to talk to you a little bit about Rasheed Walker is still out there. Am I not mistaken? I think he still is as of this morning when I was looking at it at 5 a.m. Are there chances that the Browns could bring him in and stick him over at left tackle, or what's going on here?
Well, I think the left tackle's coming in the draft. So they spent money on Elton Jenkins. Quincy Williams got a pretty nice deal, and then Zion Johnson, obviously, that was the big one, nearly $50 million for him. So I kind of feel like that they're going to, from a roster standpoint, roster management, financial management standpoint, I think that they will use the draft to fill that left tackle spot.
Do you think that they could do that at number 6, or could you see maybe a trade down and then taking a guy at that left tackle spot, or what are you thinking?
I think all options are on the table right now. The trick with trading down is I don't know that they're going to get a 2027 first-round pick out of that. A lot of teams right now, because of what is anticipated to be a good quarterback class, of course, we thought that this year going into this draft, and it never really materialized during the college football season. So it'll be interesting to see what ultimately they decide to do, but I kind of get the feeling that they want to use that one of their 2 first-round picks on an offensive lineman and then use that second one on a wide receiver.
Daryl, how far back do you think they should be willing to go to get an offensive lineman in the first round if they do want to trade back from 6?
I kind of feel like Dallas is the threshold. I think the Cowboys have the 12th overall pick, but you'd probably – Dallas has 2 picks. I think it's 12 and 20. So I would – if they don't part with a 2027 first-rounder, then I'd probably ask them for both of those selections in a trade like that. But you do run the risk when you trade back. You run the risk of losing out on a player that you really, really want. So you have to be careful there. But again, I don't think trading down would be like the worst idea in this particular draft.
I heard Coach Lance Reisman with you. I don't know how many other people did. We played some clips earlier this week. I want to know, what did you think of the acquisitions that they made across the offensive line in free agency, and of course the trade with Titus Howard?
Yeah, I like the pickups. I don't know that they are significantly a better football team than they were last year, but Andrew Berry went out and got established players with experience that are, in my view, good players. I like Titus Howard a lot. I think that he should be able to come in here and do a pretty good job at right tackle. And then, you look at it, like Elton Jenkins, there's some versatility there. Now, his best years were at guard for the Packers. Those were his all-pro years. He played center last year. And the reviews there, obviously, a little mixed. Zion Johnson can move around a little bit too. Like I just feel like with all these moves that Andrew Berry has done, Ken, he's got some versatility in there where if they have to move pieces and parts around up front, they should be able to do that because these guys have played multiple positions, a lot of them.
We know Andrew Berry's draft strategy is different from the free agency strategy, and he said before, like, free agency is kind of holds for right now. It shouldn't necessarily affect what you do in the draft. But do you think the way that they've attacked the free agency period, Daryl, is something that maybe changes the way we should think about not necessarily finding that left tackle in the draft, but what else they could do near the top of the draft?
No, I honestly think, Danny, that this free agency period has set up the draft, and it's been exactly, at least from my standpoint, it's been what I expected. I did not get the impression that they were going to spend big money in the wide receiver room during free agency. They spent money on the offensive line, and quite frankly, that's where they needed to spend their money and their resources right now. And then also, too, losing Devin Bush to the Bears in free agency. Yeah, that's tough, but I think they did a real nice job replacing him by bringing in Quincy Williams, and, he got a pretty favorable contract, team-friendly contract there, only a 2-year contract. So I think Andrew Berry's done a good job this week, not overspending. I know that there are some folks that think that they overspent for Zion Johnson at 3 years and nearly $50 million. I understand that, and Tyson Howard, after they made the trade with Houston, they agreed to a 3-year contract extension with him. But you got to spend money somewhere, and the Browns historically have been willing to make investments in their offensive line and spend money there. So I really don't have a problem with what Berry did up front.
Why should I care, Daryl, when people complain about how much money is spent on a certain guy in free agency? I just don't. I tried. I used to try. I don't. It's like, and I could always use the eraser. Well, it's not my money. Well, I know that you have to pay for it eventually on all these other things, but it's like, hey, man, that's the going rate. Tyler Linderbaum sets up the market. All right, I don't know if anybody's going to be making over Tyler Linderbaum here over the next couple of years, but all right, some people are going to be making over Creed Humphrey, I'm sure. The market's the market. You either have the player or you don't. It's a zero-sum game.
No, and also too, free agency is about overpaying.
Yeah,
that's just
why
what it is.
That's why the draft's so damn important.
Right? Yeah. The heart of your roster building is drafting and developing, and there have the Browns have gone from historically bad at that to now we at least get some mixed reviews. They have some hits now, and they still have their misses. But every team has hits and misses in the draft. I'm actually glad they didn't sign Tyler Linderbaum. I can't justify spending $27 million a year on a center. I don't care if he touches the ball on every play or not, or calls out the protections. I think that's, because of the gap, I think it's a $9 million gap now between the highest paid center, Linderbaum, and the second highest paid player. That to me is just, that's a little bananas to me. But, good on the Las Vegas Raiders, who, by the way, had to spend this offseason. I read something that they were falling behind as far as what their obligations were, as far as the collective bargaining agreement and have spending their cap allocation is 90% of the cap you have to spend over a certain number of years, and they were falling short of that, so they had to go out and spend big money. So God bless them for spending that much money on a center. I'm actually glad that Andrew Berry did not do that here.
Joe Bitonio's contract voided yesterday, Daryl, and we don't necessarily have an answer as far as what's going to happen. How do you think that situation ends up playing out?
I don't think he's back because I think if he would have been back, it would have gotten done before that contract voided, so they could minimize that $23.5 million salary cap hit. Now, if he does come back, they get a double whammy because they're already on the hook for that $23.5 million. And then they'd have to do something to, lessen his cap impact now. So I think, unfortunately, and also, too, with the moves that Andrew Berry made this week, Danny, I'm starting to think that Joel's not going to be back. And as far as whether or not he actually plays this season for somebody else, I don't know. But I kind of feel like that if he was going to return to the Browns, that would have gotten resolved before the contract voided.
Daryl Ruiter joining us here on the show. All right, I guess I got to ask you about Ty Simpson. We just had a whole segment about him. Actually, most of a whole segment about him. But all right, Ty Simpson. What's the chances Ty Simpson were to actually end up in Cleveland?
Well, they already brought him in for a top 30 visit. They did that before free agency, which I thought was interesting. And they brought in 3 or 4 guys here before free agency. I think that there's a couple of reasons for that. One, to inform them, because he is thought of as the second best quarterback in this class. He will be the guy that goes off the board at some point after Fernando Mendoza goes number 1 overall to Vegas. So obviously there's interest there. That's why they brought him in. But I also think it's a little bit of a fact-finding mission, Ken, as you know. You don't always, have intentions on drafting people you bring in. Sometimes you want to create a file on them for future reference, whether it's a future trade opportunity comes up, free agency, whatever. You sit there and say, hey, when we did our homework on Ty Simpson going into the draft, let's pull all that out and see if there's something in there that we need to revisit or whatnot. But, I don't know what Andrew Berry's plans would be there. I would be absolutely flabbergasted if they drafted him 6 overall. I think one of the mock drafters did that, where they had him 6 overall, and I think that's a little much, maybe at 24. But I really feel like this is not the year to spend a first-round draft pick on a quarterback. They should be looking to do that next year.
I was going to ask Daryl, why is it not worth investing in Ty Simpson at 24, knowing, and we do this every year, where next year's draft class looks great, and this year's draft class was supposed to look great, and now you've got Fernando Mendoza and a bunch of other guys that I don't know that necessarily anybody else wants, and there's no promising that Julian Sayin or CJ Carr or Dante Moore or Arch Manning is going to be the next guy next year, but on paper that looks great. But why is it not worth investing in a quarterback in the first round or even in the second round in this year's draft?
Well, it comes down to, if you make that pick at 24, Danny, then you are basically moving on from Shedeur Sanders as your starter, and he jumps basically to the front of the line and becomes your number 1 investment in that room. And quite frankly, I don't know that Ty Simpson's worth that. They already have 2 projects in that room right now, and that's Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel. Remains to be seen if one or both make it to September on this roster. But yeah, if they do draft Ty Simpson, that basically signals, okay, we as an organization, maybe not so much moving on from Shedeur, but they're saying, okay, Shedeur cannot do this, and we're going to invest our resources into Ty Simpson here. And again, I'm not sold that that's the right move there.
Daryl Ruiter joining us here on the show. Did you want to ask the other question? Go ahead and ask him the question you wanted to ask.
If Andrew Berry would have done what Ernie DaCosta did this past week, where they go back on the trade for Max Crosby after agreeing to it and cancel it at the last minute, how would you think of Andrew Berry?
Objectively, I think the Baltimore Ravens did what they felt was in the best interest of their franchise. Now, was it a little shady and underhanded? In my view, 100% absolutely. But they didn't do anything illegal. Maybe they broke some unwritten rules or whatnot, but because, everyone knew Max Crosby had surgery in January. It's not like this came out of nowhere. I mean, there were articles written about it. He has had, some injury issues here in the recent past. But also, too, they ended up with a player that, has comparable production and will cost them $7-8 million less a year. So, they did what they felt. And the irony here, by the way, is Sashi Brown is the team president. Remember, he killed that Hugh Jackson trade with the Cincinnati Bengals too. So, I don't know if he was involved in killing this trade, but I know around the league this is not thought of very well. And we all know if the Browns did something like this, I mean, there'd be 24/7, 365 coverage everywhere about what a scumbag Andrew Berry is for doing that, because it's the Browns, right? The Ravens obviously have a little more, I think, latitude, if you will, when it comes to the national media, because they've won a couple Super Bowl trophies and they've been a consistent winner there down in Baltimore. But I do feel like if Andrew Berry had done this, he would just be getting torn apart still. I kind of feel like this is going to be forgotten here in a couple of days, whereas if it were the Browns, it'd be a nonstop story.
Daryl, thank you for the hot times. All the very best to you and yours. We'll talk to you next week, buddy.
You bet, guys. Have a great weekend.
The Dangerous One, Daryl Ruiter. He's brought to you by
Scheiben Jewelers, Cleveland's premier jewelry store.
I want Daryl's answer on Joel Bitonio, and You got to do what's best for the team. You can't be out there trying to make friends. I would stand by Andrew Berry if he did this. Coming up in 5 on The Fan. Kane.
$2.5 million, and then they'd have to do something to, lessen his cap impact now. So I think, unfortunately, and also, too, with the moves, I'm starting to think that Joel's not going to be back. And as far as whether or not he actually plays this season for somebody else, I don't know. But I kind of feel like that if he was going to return to the Browns, that would have gotten resolved before the contract voided.
Totally agree with Daryl. I think that he'll probably... I still lean retire.
See, I feel like we would have been informed of that before the void. Because then they could have stretched it out over a couple of years, right? If he would have retired, they could have stretched that cap hit out over a couple of years as opposed to needing to take on what they're taking on this year. And I think if Joel... Now, maybe he doesn't know that. Maybe he truly is taking his time. But I always thought this was going to be retirement or he plays for the Browns again. And I feel like the door is more than cracked open for him to play for someone else.
Let's see. We heard what John Greco said earlier this week, and you can hear that entire interview, 923thefan.com, because if you missed a moment of the show as well, you can use the Rewind feature on the free Odyssey app, powered by Integrated Restoration, your local experts in water, fire, and storm disaster restoration. But we did already hear from John. Let's hear from Joe Thomas, about Joel.
I would be surprised if he goes to another team, to be totally honest. I mean, he's played his whole career in Cleveland, and I think talking with him, being one of my best buds, I think he understands the value that is, to be able to walk away with a lot of pride that, hey, you know what, I started in one place, and then I finished in that same spot. And I think the value for you personally is huge, but also I've talked to him about how much it means to me that, I got to go into the Hall of Fame as a Cleveland Brown. There was no question marks. There was no wondering, is he going to go into this team or that team? And, even though we didn't finish successfully on top like I had hoped, I still have a lot of pride knowing that people come up to me on the street, whether it's Cleveland, Ohio, or Wisconsin or somewhere else, and saying, you know what, it's pretty cool that you were loyal to one place. There's not many guys that have played their entire career for one franchise.
So that's a couple of guys, because, John was down in Cincinnati for Week 18. John goes to NFL games, Greco, but it wasn't like he just goes to Cincinnati on a whim. So it's like, okay, that kind of gave you a feeling. But for a guy like Joel, I think Joel may be coming into struggle, and I haven't spoken to Joel since the season ended. I think Joel might be struggling with the finality of giving it up in football.
That's fair.
I think that there's definitely his agent. I think there's definitely scouts or general managers that are kind of kicking the tires on it. And I don't blame him for kind of thinking about it. I know the $23 million that they could have used or not used or spread out through 2 years, I should say, instead of one. Fine. It is what it is. I agreed with Jason on it yesterday, even though, boy, he didn't even want to have the conversation about it yesterday. But I agreed with Jason ultimately about it. But I do think, ultimately, I think he'll walk away. Offensive linemen are nesters, man. They are. Everything is about protecting the herd.
Yeah.
Everything is about protecting others. They find a home. They like to stay in a home. They just do. And I think that a guy like Joel might be uncomfortable. Somebody might offer him an amount of money for one season where it's like, okay, I got to come back. I got to play. For a competitive football team.
Do you think that's the holdup here? Do you think there's an offer out there that is making him ponder?
I think we'd hear about it. I think we'd hear about a real offer. But I think that there's definitely, he finished up so well. When Joe was done, he was done.
Well, he got
his
hurt.
body, we heard about everything else. Everything else was I remember there would be people who would go after Joe for having the Wednesday off. And thank God I never did. And then when he got hurt, when he broke his arm, when he tore up his arm, then we heard about the back, we heard about the knees, we heard about the hip. Everything. It just all happened at once. And it was I can't believe Joe was able to get out of bed.
Right.
And I think Joel saw that. And you end the season, I know he had to get shot up in his back and everything like that, but you end the season relatively healthy. It isn't like you're Jackie Slater out there, and it's like you're trying to get one more year just to say you played 20 years.
Right.
Jackie Slater was a great offensive lineman. I use him as an example. Joel finished up at the top of his game. And when you're at the top of the game, it messes with you, because why give up on this when you love this when you don't have to? It's a very tough decision to make to walk away from something. And like I even go back to like a guy, we've talked to guys who retired and we talked to guys who retired too young. I'll use a different example. I'll use Rusty Wallace. Like he came on the show, and I know Owen's going to roll his eyes and laugh because I'm using a NASCAR driver.
I don't roll my car, man. I'm good.
But what he said, he goes, I walked away. I left too early. I don't know why I left. I agreed to have some retirement thing, and I shouldn't have left. I should have came back. Should have kept doing it. Mark Martin decided he should have kept doing it. Other guys, Michael Jordan decided he wanted to come back. Like, if there's any taste left, you're going to want to try to get that feeling again. And I think for Joel, like there is still some finality that he might be going, I just want to make sure. Because when it's over, I think Joel's going to be one of these guys. He loses a bunch of weight. Your body's not going to let you do it, and then that's it.
How much value do you think there is in today's world of being a one team for your entire career guy? Because to Joe's point, we don't see that very often. Not just in football, but in any sport. Like, we don't see guys that have these long careers.
I think it's a comfort. I think that there's guys who have been in the building that Joel doesn't even trust. He trusts them as far as he can throw them. I'm not even talking about recently. I mean, he played for 12 years. Think about the people who are in the building over 12 years. I guarantee there's people in the building who he doesn't like, doesn't trust over 12 years.
Yeah.
But it's a region. It's an area. And it's about being comfortable in an area. You're in a place for 12 years. You are offensive linemen. They are not nomadic. They're not vagabonds. They everything that an offensive lineman does, if you're a natural O-lineman, everything you do is to maintain order, and so things do not create chaos.
Yeah.
And you become comfortable in the place that you're in. So this is what Joel knows in the NFL. He's in this area. He likes this area. His family likes this area. Why move? And with young kids, why put them through for an extra whatever? That's the way these guys think.
And that's fair. And I'm not saying that that's wrong whatsoever. It's just a curiosity for me because I do wonder if there's the one thing that Joel has not done. It's win at a very high level. He's been a part of a few good teams, but for the most part, just like Joe Thomas, he's been a part of some really bad teams. And I do wonder if there's that allure, not only of a team potentially having a significant financial offer to him, I wonder if there's a team that gives him the opportunity, because you talked about him going out on top as far as how well he played.
Yeah.
But can he go out a winner somewhere else? Because if he comes back and plays in Cleveland again, he's not going out a winner. This team's not going, because I don't see him playing
not with that attitude.
Well, I don't see him playing more than 1 year, and they're not going to win this year. Let's be real with ourselves here.
You're right.
So does he want to win somewhere else? Would that matter to him as much? I don't have the answers to these questions, but they are things that fascinate me.
Well, again, personal glory, ring chasing. He just plays a different position. It's a total mindset. It's a total different emotion. Again, Joe, people would have had a parade for Joe out the door here and would have probably done the impossible and actually brought themselves to hope. Like the Broncos were sniffing around.
Right.
They would have brought themselves to like cheer for the Broncos based on Joe's behalf. And Joe was like, nah, I'm good. Comfortable with these people. Cleveland and Wisconsin, there's not that many differences. A little bit warmer here, I would imagine, during certain times.
It is.
I'm comfortable with these folks. I don't need to go. I got kids. I don't need to go being 2 time zones away from them, finishing out this year, whatever. Like he didn't want to do it. And I think a lot of offensive linemen don't want to do it. I mean, the majority of these guys, even if the team's struggling, and the team has struggled, they just, going to keep plugging away. Going to keep plugging away until this thing works. And I'd be very surprised. I wouldn't blame Joel whatsoever if he ended up signing on with the Seahawks. I'm just naming a team that's a competitive team, that's a good team. I wouldn't blame him whatsoever, but I'd be very surprised if he did. I'd be very surprised, considering what we know about offensive linemen. 216-474-0092. Okay, I want to say this about Andrew Berry coming up at 9:22, okay? We got into it about Joel Bitonio. I want to say this about Andrew Berry at 9:22. He is not here to make friends, and if it were on the other foot, I would defend him like crazy if this were to go down between the Cleveland Browns and what the Ravens did earlier this week. Coming up next, Nathan Zagura, Browns radio analyst. How would he maybe feel if the Browns did something like that, and how's he feeling where the Browns may go at 6? And should we, I know John, he's licking his wounds after the 8 o'clock segment. John really wanted Ty Simpson. Is he a possibility? We'll talk about that with Nathan coming up in 5 minutes on The Fan. Danny Cunningham in for Tone with myself, Kenny. Hey, friends, Ken Carman.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel and get the best content from our shows each and every weekday. That's 923 The Fan on YouTube. Headline sports news every 20 minutes on 923 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Meredith Kane.
There's only one place to hear breaking Browns news. This is the radio home of the Cleveland Browns, 92.3 The Fan.
Just what the hell are them Browns going to do after all these moves in this free agency? How much flexibility do they have at that number 6 pick? How much flexibility do they have at 24? And could they do the impossible and take Alabama's Ty Simpson? Nathan Zagura going to answer all them questions after this.
But first, 92.3 The Fan is looking for a winner. Enter the code BATTLE, that's BATTLE, at 923thefan.com before 10 a.m. for your chance to win a pair of tickets to the MAC men's semifinals this Friday. That's today at 5 p.m. at Rocket Arena. Get tickets at rocketarena.com.
Away we go. Nathan Zagura joins us, Browns radio analyst. He's on the Make It Right, Call Kyle Wright hotline. He is a senior broadcaster analyst, all those things. He's wonderful, and he joins us. Hello, Nathan.
Hello, Ken. It is great to be with you. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well. Doing very well. Hopefully we're going to be doing even better. They address the offensive line. I'm open-minded. I'm afraid of free agent offensive linemen, but it was moves you had to make, so this is the business we've chosen. They made them. Hopefully they're going to work out. Who are you most excited about with the offensive linemen that they're bringing in here?
I think it's just a combination of all of them because the Browns needed to get new starters on the offensive line, a complete overhaul. And so you bring in Titus Howard, who's been a very, very good pass blocker throughout his career, a guy that I talked to this week who said, he's going to come in and be the right tackle for the Cleveland Browns. You bring in Gus Johnson, who former first-round pick, much like Titus Howard, a former first-round pick, who maybe hasn't reached his full ceiling yet in his time with the Chargers, but the Browns have George Warhop here, and one of the things that George Warhop is known for is getting the best out of young offensive linemen, and Gus Johnson has been a very good run blocker in his time here in the National Football League. He will play one of the guard positions. Elton Jenkins can play guard or center. I think you look at his career, he's probably been better as a guard moving to center last year, really for the first time in his career. About 80 to 80+% of the snaps he's ever played in the NFL have been at guard, even some a little bit at tackle, but was a 2-time Pro Bowler at guard there for the Green Bay Packers. And now an opportunity gives you some guard center flexibility there. Luke Whippler is somebody that the Browns are still high on internally. So maybe he could be the center. Jenkins could be at one guard. And then Tevin Jenkins, you bring back, if you look at it this way, you could say right now we could roll out there with 4 starters. If you had Tevin Jenkins at one guard, Gus Johnson at the other, Elton Jenkins at center, and Titus Howard at right tackle, Whippler and DeJuan Jones coming back from injuries, obviously, for the Browns. And I don't think they're done there, but it's really more the collective of the group, right? As long as you can have no real weak links on your offensive line can play solidly. And we have seen in the past when we had the luxury of having Bill Callahan here, that when you have an offensive line coach of that ilk, and I'm not saying George Warhop is Bill Callahan, but George Warhop is certainly very well regarded. Joe Thomas certainly sings his praises. Todd Monken wanted to bring him with him from Baltimore. And Titus Howard, who actually was coached by Warhop in 22 in Houston, said that he was the best offensive line coach he's had. And really, he thought George's year with George Warhop is where his career took a turning point for the better. So you're excited about the fact that now the Browns actually have an offensive line, still one more piece at left tackle, obviously, to fill in, and that's a big one, but there are a bevy of ways to do that. I think the longer that Rasheed Walker stays, on the free agent market, the longer or the better chance, certainly, that there is an opportunity for him to be available at a better price than you may have thought. And then, obviously, in the draft, the Browns will have the opportunity to get a left tackle.
Do you think that left tackle thing is going to be something they want to address at 6 in the draft? Do you think they could trade back there? Is that a 24 spot? What do you think draft-wise is the most likely outcome for that?
Yeah, I think it's just going to depend. I think it's going to depend on just the way that things flow and how they view in their grades the tiers between the wide receivers and the offensive linemen. Because if there is a tackle that they think at 6 is head and shoulders better than anybody else that they could get, then they'll probably take him there. Now, if they go out and they sign Rasheed Walker, now that changes everything, I think, in the draft. You're still going to want a tackle for the future, but you might be saying, okay, at 24 with Blake Miller out of Clemson, who's a guy that a lot of people like, we can be a little more patient. I think Monroe Freeling projects as the most true left tackle in this draft. The question is he's been a late riser. Is he somebody that rises all the way up to number 6? When I was at the Combine, you talked about the 2020 draft that had the 4 big left tackles in it, Andrew Thomas, Mekhi Becton, Jed Wills, and Tristan Wirfs, 2 of whom have now become, mega stars, and one of whom, in Mekhi Becton, played on the Super Bowl team, and he's moved into guard, but still has been a very good pro, that nobody in this draft class is of those guys' level. Now, that's always projection. They get things wrong all the time. Amon-Ra St. Brown went in the 4th round. So that's one of the areas you have to look at. And then you look at your team and you say, what impacts us the most right now? What impacts us the most? We know we're going to need help on that line, but boy, we sure do need weapons. And as Ken knows, I've been banging that drum for years and years and years. So are you better off with a Carnell Tate at 6 and then getting a tackle like Blake Miller at 24? Or are you better off going with Freeling at 6? And then there's a group of wide receivers who could potentially be there at 24. Jordan Tyson, if his medicals push him down. You're talking about Denzel Boston from Washington, Omar Cooper from Indiana. There are plenty of receivers that could be there as well. So those are the calculations they make. I don't think anything's off the table. And I also don't think if they were to sign Walker, who's still out there in free agency, to be their tackle, I don't think that precludes them from taking a left tackle early in this draft either.
Well, I think what it does, there's a lot of flexibility. I'm trying to open my mind. I mean, there's for a long time, I've warned against trying to move guys around, but I think that there's some flexibility there. And it also, I agree with you, Nathan. I don't think it stops him from drafting a guy and then going, okay, just like a lot of QBs, I don't need to start you week 1. I don't need to plug you and play you because we might have some flexibility there. We can let you get your bearings here in the NFL because, Nathan, better than anybody here, there's a huge difference, and it's growing even more so when it comes to college offenses and when it comes to NFL offenses here.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's one of the reasons why you see some of those learning curves. And, they say tight end, can be one of the more challenging positions to come in. And Harold Fannin did an incredible job in his rookie year, certainly as a pass catcher. But some of the nuances in the blocking schemes and the things that people are asked to do in the NFL, those things take time to adjust to, and kind of what you're asking even an offensive tackle to do in college when it's so much quick game. Whereas in the NFL, it's not quite as much quick game. There's a lot more complexities, a lot more nuance to what you're doing, not only in your pass sets, to your run sets. And then, of course, there's also the under center play action component that is a huge part of generating explosives in the National Football League that really isn't a huge part of college football. And it's not part of, these guys, okay, let's really sell this run action here, like when Kyle Shanahan was here where everything had to look the same, sell this run action, but it's actually a pass. So there are a lot of things for these offensive linemen to learn. I do think for the Browns, though, if they get to the point where, let's say Luke Whippler can start at center, and you got Elton Jenkins and Zion Johnson are your guards. Tevin Jenkins now becomes your swing guard, which is great. Elton Jenkins has the ability to move in as your backup center. Dewan Jones, who, when healthy, has played very well for the Cleveland Browns over the years, he's now your swing tackle. All of a sudden you say to yourself, this is way better depth than we've ever had with the Cleveland Browns, where we've got guys who have started ready to step in. This is a huge year, in my opinion, for Zach Zinner. We have got to see something for Zach Zinner. Zach Zinner was drafted in the 3rd round to be the succession plan for Wyatt Teller or Joel Bitonio. That has not materialized. He wasn't even active a lot last year. So George Warhop's got his work cut out there, but Zach Zinner is somebody that you need to step up. And if you can get KT Leviston, who at least played some games for you last year, all of a sudden we have at least some depth, and then it gives you the flexibility to be maybe more patient with a younger player, or to say, we're going to throw him in there. If it doesn't work, we have an opportunity to slide somebody else in, get him kind of reset and go from there. But the rest of free agency that would necessarily change what the Browns do in that first round. I do think, let's say they do sign Walker, and now you've got your full starting offensive line set. Maybe that gives you the flexibility to say, we think Caleb Downs is a transcendent player, and we would take Caleb Downs. But I really think for the Browns, the first 3 picks have got to come down to most likely a receiver and 2 offensive linemen, one on the outside, one on the inside, because even though you have added all these pieces, you still need heir apparents, and you need people who are going to be able to take over for Elton Jenkins. Long-term answer for Titus Howard is probably not a long-term answer, and have that succession planning in place.
Given what the quarterback room looks like right now, what level of interest do you think the Browns should have in adding somebody in the draft to that room?
I think, look, you're always, until you have the solution, you don't. So you should always be searching for it. I think right now it's a Deshaun Watson, Shedeur Sanders competition to be the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. I do think could Ty Simpson be somebody that really intrigues them, that they think is, a real likely answer? Possibly. possibly. Would I be surprised if he was taken in the first round in this draft by the Cleveland Browns? Yes, I would, but that doesn't mean it could not happen. What I think is more likely is that a guy like Drew Aller, whom the Browns were very, very high on, and in fact, I think had Drew Aller come out last year, maybe played a better game against Notre Dame, comes out, I think there's a good chance that Drew Aller's a Cleveland Brown. So he's somebody that now they would look at a year later and say, okay, yeah, he had that injury. There were a lot of things at Penn State that went on. Perhaps those offensive, the system that they had there, maybe it's not all his fault, but we like that ball of clay. Plus he would, obviously the hometown stuff doesn't matter at all in reality, but it's somebody who understands this franchise, understands this organization. But I could see them taking a flyer on Drew Aller in the third or the fourth round and saying, okay, here's another guy that we really liked. We were very high on a year ago that maybe has the tools, he has the size, he has the arm, he has all of it to become the answer for us at quarterback. So that's, to me, it's much more likely that they take a shot on a guy like that in the mid rounds than it is that they go for a quarterback early in this draft.
Nathan Zagura joining us on the show. I have my reservations. None of it's Drew Aller's fault. I got my reservations. I also have reservations about Ty Simpson. I know he's very good with the anticipatory throws. Some of the highlights have been fantastic. I think he's tough, but he's kind of brittle in so many ways. Got banged up a lot.
He hasn't started much.
Yeah, got banged up a lot this last year. How much interest do they really have in a guy like that? Because that's not just like taking a flyer on a guy. That's a big investment.
Right, and I just don't think that the Browns are at that point in this draft where that somebody is compelling them. This is, look, the reality is this is a very quarterback-needy league, and let's take the Arizona Cardinals, for example, who picked before the Cleveland Browns. If there was a quarterback that they really thought could be the answer in this draft, they're taking him.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody's even talking about that. So it doesn't feel like, and that's not to say that a quarterback drafted in this draft can end up being a good starter, but there isn't somebody that is going to be compelling teams in the top 6 to take a quarterback. And so what does that look like? How does that shake out? We'll see. Somebody will obviously take the gamble on Ty Simpson at some point because that's what this league is all about. It's finding that quarterback. And then if you can get a quarterback, you're in a much better place as a franchise than you are without one. I do think, and such about Drew Aller, there are plenty of guys in this draft that were 2 years ago thought of very, very highly. Like this was supposed to be the year when you had Messmeyer and Klubnik and Carson Beck and all of those guys. So will teams take a shot on them? Yes. The calculus that you have to weigh is you can say, okay, yeah, we're taking a shot in the third or the fourth round. But those for our team right now, those are picks that probably have to be contributors. And so are we in a position, in the fourth round, maybe, sure, because the percentage of that pick working out is, we know what it is. But, those third round picks are valuable. And we used a third round pick on a quarterback last year that, a lot of people think it could be a very nice backup in this league, but not necessarily, a long-term starter in this league. So I think you just have to be judicious with those picks as well, given where we are as a roster and all the needs that we have, certainly on the offensive side of the ball, and, probably some succession planning, as I like to call it, on the defensive side of the ball that's needed.
1 minute. I have to ask this question. I think you and I are going to agree, though. What would you say if Andrew Berry and the Browns did what Eric DeCosta and the Ravens did earlier this week with the Max Crosby deal?
I'm just glad that is not a scenario that I would have to entertain or try to go on my various radio shows. And just I thought that was shady. Do I think that it was probably the right move at the end of the day for the Ravens? Yeah, probably. They were able to get a guy who maybe is not quite as good as Max Crosby, but they're going to pay him similar money and keep their 2-1s after they got pillaged in free agency. It just, and I go back to it, like if somebody pulled something like that in your fantasy football league, you'd throw them out of the league and people would be pissed.
Yeah,
I think it's shady. I don't think that it was, you would have a very difficult time convincing me that this was simply what it was, that he just failed the physical. I think they thought Trey Hendrickson was going to be off the market or certainly cost a lot more. They didn't get involved with Trey Hendrickson until Crosby was there. So the idea that they wanted to pair them together really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I think it just is what it is. And there's no punishment that can be handed out. There probably should be. And I think it's going to evaluate how some of these things are done, because it wasn't fair to the Raiders, honestly, the way that it all went down. So I'm glad that it didn't happen. if you're just in isolation, take emotion out of it, or take right and wrong or morality out of it, it was probably a smart move by the Baltimore Ravens, but that doesn't make it feel any better or seem like something that should be happening in the NFL.
Nathan, I'm surprised. Can't wait to talk about this in 5 minutes. Nathan, thank you so much for the time, my friend. All the best.
All right, you got it. Thank you.
Nathan Zagura, Browns senior radio analyst on the Make It Right Call Kyle Wright hotline. I got to admit,
I like it.
It's shady. It's greasy business. If it happened with my team, I'd be celebrating. We'd be playing Michael Stanley. I'm telling you why in 5 minutes on The Fan.
I do think, let's say they do sign Walker, and now you've got your full starting offensive line set. Maybe that gives you the flexibility to say, you know what, we think Caleb Downs is a transcendent player, and we would take Caleb Downs. But I really think for the Browns, the first 3 picks have got to come down to, most likely, a receiver and 2 offensive linemen, one on the outside, one on the inside, because even though you have added all these pieces, you still need heir apparents, and you need people who are going to be able to take over.
That's Nathan Zagura, Browns radio analyst. You hear him during every single game. He is fantastic, and he was on the Make It Right Call Kyle Wright hotline. I want to talk more about that player coming up here at 9:45. Danny Cunningham, almost called you Callahan, Mrs. Callahan. Danny Cunningham in for Anthony Lima, 216-474-0092. We are not doing coming in hot. I'm not going to do coming in hot without Tone. We damn sure ain't going to do coming in hot next Friday because Daryl's in next Friday.
Disappointing.
Listen, I'm not going to sit here. You want me to say what I want to say?
Anthony did it with Daryl.
You know why Anthony did it with Daryl?
It feels.
You want to know why Anthony did it with Daryl?
Feels like it's going to be a month between coming in hot.
And you know what? Good. They got to earn it. They got to earn the coming in hot. Okay, it's not just a cup of coffee. You can't.
I don't know if I want to do it anymore. We're
going to do it. We're going to do it again.
I'll just turn off phones when we won't do it.
Well, I'm not going to tell you why I think that.
Watch.
That
phones are on right now. Now the phones are off. Try to take somebody.
I don't see the X's.
Phones are not off.
Right.
Oh, I can't see anything. This is over.
Oh, the pot. I thought
phones
you
are
turned
off.
off the screen.
The pot's off.
Phones are off. Holy.
Now the phones are back on.
The only time I will turn coming in hot on again, when Lima is not here, no offense to you, Danny, is Jason Lloyd. If Jason hosts and Shedeur is still playing for the Cleveland Browns, I will do coming in hot again with Jason.
Line it up.
Yep. I will do that all day long because my mentions were a mess yesterday afternoon because of Jason. That was wonderful. So I told you guys at 9:45 I want to talk about this one player that we're going to find out how much you guys know me, how well you guys know me about one player in particular coming up at 9:45. Nathan, I asked him about what he would do if Andrew Berry pulled the same move Eric DeCosta did, and he said it was a greasy move. It was dirty pool. It was underhanded, cheap, the whole thing. I was surprised. I really was surprised. When Nathan starts, man, I'm glad he didn't do that so I didn't have to try to rectify that. I go, ooh, it was not the answer I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
It was not the answer I thought it was going to be. I really thought Nathan and I were going to agree.
It's such a scummy move to pull. It really is. Like, I get it. You can make the case. Was it the best move for the Baltimore Ravens? Sure. They got a lesser player. I think Max Crosby is a better player in a vacuum than Trey Hendrickson is. But when you think about the money that they're saving, the fact that they're not giving up 2 first-round draft picks, like I did think that was a bit of an overpay of a trade. But to agree to a deal, and then, what was it, 3 days later, 2 days later, realize that, maybe we did overpay a little bit for that. Like, that to me, it's just... It's a very scummy, unethical type of thing to do.
Yeah, it's scummy and unethical, and it's just a little bit of a public showing of what these teams do to each other all the time, what these organizations do all the time. And if Andrew Berry did the same thing, if we were in the same exact situation, and who knows, anything's possible with the Cleveland Browns. Maybe we will find ourselves in this spot someday. The only thing I'm critical of Eric DeCosta and the Ravens are doing here is not recognizing Trey Hendrickson before and then committing at first to it. That's the only thing that I am critical of them doing. Because when it comes to the Max Crosby deal, all the Ravens did was come to their senses. They got Trey Hendrickson. They paid him money. All you need to do is pay money. And anybody who knows me knows that there's a few things that I stand by, and I don't give that much of a damn about money. If I'm making a case for money about a player, I'm just trying to accentuate that I don't think he's very good.
Yeah.
Like when I say that Deshaun Watson makes $230 million, I can't tell you how much Patrick Mahomes makes because I don't care because I know he's good.
Because he's worth it.
Exactly. So if I know how much you make right off the tippy top of my head, you ain't good. I care about picks. That's what I care about. To me, it's not, and you're seeing it now. You just said it at the beginning of the show. This is where you're paying the piper for the worst trade ever because you didn't have 3 first-round picks. We're signing guys to free agent deals because we didn't have first-round picks. I care about the picks. What Eric DeCosta did was scummy and greasy and all these other bad things. And if he were the general manager of the Cleveland Browns or if Andrew Berry did all those scummy, greasy things and got us Trey Hendrickson instead of Max Crosby and got us out of a deal for a guy who has had an injury history, has had an off-the-field history as well, you know what? Champions pose, fire up the Michael Stanley, I am in. Your defense still got better. Your defense overall is better. And I know that they were out of the Trey Hendrickson business before Cincinnati was. I know that he's out on Cincinnati. The defense for the Cincinnati Bengals isn't as good. This is a win any single time. And because so many people are going to be a little bit angry with it, I'm sorry, you're a general manager. You should already be used to people being angry with you. I don't care. If it were the Cleveland Browns doing this, hand to God, I would support Andrew Berry for it. It's scummy. It's greasy. But I'm not in the business of making friends. I don't want to do scummy and greasy things to you. We still work with each other. We are not in a competitive business like they are. They're in a competitive business. Fans do not care about how well thought of their team is around the league. They care about getting the best player, finding whatever way they can to get the best player. They don't give a damn. They don't care.
Do you think this is something that could come back and bite the Ravens with teams that might not want to work with them anymore?
You know what?
Agencies
it might
that might not want to work with them.
It might, but you have to make the best deal for your team. So if I'm Kenny Carman and I'm the general manager of the Commanders and the Ravens want to make me a deal for somebody here and I can go, oh my God, that was terrible. Okay, am I going to go up there in front of my fans and keep saying that was terrible and that was scummy and I didn't want to do work with Eric DeCosta? They don't give a damn. They want the player. Yeah. They don't care. So I will make moves still with this man. And I could say, well, I think he's duplicitous, and I think that I can't trust him. They already think each other are duplicitous, and they can't trust each other. That's the NFL.
I can't say that anything you're saying is wrong. I cannot,
what I'm saying is right.
Correct. I cannot push back on that, but that does not make it less scummy, less ethical to me, or more ethical, I guess. If Andrew Berry would have done this because of who the Cleveland Browns are and what the history of this organization since 1999 is.
Okay.
This would be looked at differently.
Yeah, of
this
course.
would be
of
a
course.
bigger story than it is because
totally
it's,
agree.
especially considering Andrew Berry's history with the Deshaun Watson trade, how poorly he's drafted at times.
Yeah.
This would be a bigger story. The Browns would be the laughing stock of football.
I'm frustrated by that.
But because it's the Ravens, it's what's best for the team. And that is something to me that bothers me because that organization under DeCosta has not exactly been the pinnacle of success either.
No.
Like, they've been good, and they're good because they have an elite-level quarterback, and they've not done a good enough job surrounding him with the requisite talent to win a Super Bowl, which is part of the reason why they have all of these postseason shortcomings or lose in Week 18 to the Pittsburgh Steelers the way they did this past year.
Yeah, go ahead. No, you go.
That, to me,
sorry.
If the Browns had that situation, if the Ravens had the Browns situation, they'd be a laughingstock. And that is something to me that bothers me because DeCosta has not earned this. The Baltimore Ravens organizationally maybe have. Because since they've been in the league, they have been
one of the pinnacles. One of the more successful teams.
DeCosta's not. He has not been a good general manager.
So while you say that, and I want to agree with you, I have to look at it and say, how would I react if it were the Cleveland Browns? And I am frustrated because you are right. I would sit here and I would defend it, and everybody would just say I have my head up my own ass, and that all I do is defend the Browns for the terrible things that they do, even though I can tell you right now, if I were a Ravens fan, and thank God I'm not, I would sit here and defend this all day long. You still got yourself a fantastic player. That's still going to be a better defense. All those things that I've said before. But I am frustrated because, yes, but you are blamed for what you've done before. And when we talk about labels, last week when it came to the Cavs being quote-unquote soft, it takes a long time to shed labels. One good season, one playoff year in 2023 with a quarterback that hasn't played for you now is not going to change all those feelings about your football team. People still look at the Browns and they think of a negative word when they think of the Browns there. It's up to the Browns over a course of time. And it's the same thing on the other side. When they think of the Ravens, they think of success, they think of good football, and one scummy, greasy move isn't going to change that. The other thing that I like as an outsider, I will tell you this, where he could get his comeuppance is we're getting close to another extension with Lamar.
Yeah.
And
well, didn't he say the deadline passed for that?
The thing, Lamar or DeCosta? Was it DeCosta?
I think DeCosta said that.
Okay, because I know that they want to get something done, but this is gonna come down to the wire again. What I would like out of this, this is where maybe that people remember things. I think that there were a lot of people who worked with the Ravens a few years ago on the Lamar Jackson contract. This is only my theory. I can't guarantee anything. I allege, right? I allege. You cannot tell me that in a league that is psychotic for quarterbacks, that nobody else was interested in Lamar Jackson.
Ridiculous.
And I think that a lot of teams, I personally believe that a lot of teams worked with the Ravens because they didn't want another Deshaun Watson situation. They didn't want any more guaranteed money, so they did it.
Collusion.
So now because Eric DeCosta did what he did, I wish the Raiders didn't have the number 1 overall pick because they make a perfect scenario for it. I think that maybe some teams next year, if Lamar has a great season, maybe they'd be in the business for him. Or the Ravens might do what they've always done, which could get wild where, okay, Joe Flacco's coming to his end, we're going to get Lamar Jackson. Maybe Lamar Jackson's coming to his end, and we're going to get somebody else, like the Packers have done with quarterbacks in the past. That's a hard truth to say, but that's what their history
Lamar
shows.
At his age.
And Lamar's still in his pinnacle.
Lamar is not what Brett Favre was or what Aaron Rodgers was when the Packers made the draft picks of Rodgers and Love, respectively.
Yes, he is better, but you're also guarding against the injuries, which he's had.
Sure.
You're guarding against a guy who's more physical than any of those other quarterbacks that we talked about, and they might decide that they want to get out while the getting's good. I don't know how good the getting's going to be, but my point is, as an outsider, is that I would like them to pay the fiddler for everything that happened a couple years ago because I don't believe a damn word of it, that other teams weren't really interested in Lamar Jackson. I do believe that there were plenty of teams that were working with the Ravens because they didn't want to have another Deshaun Watson guaranteed contract situation.
I think there was collusion there. I absolutely 100% believe there was league collusion as far as that goes because they wanted to. Lamar was the guy that should have solidified fully guaranteed contracts. He was deserving of it. He's the guy that should have gotten that. And the league didn't allow that to happen. I will always believe there was something shady, which for the Baltimore Ravens is just par for the course.
There's people who disagree with me. I'll get to those folks coming up here in about 5 minutes. So coming up at about 9:43 on the Fan, as well as this player, this spring will prove to you, or at least prove to me, just how much we all know each other. You think you know me? I'm going to put you to the test with this player coming up in 5 minutes on the Fan.
Right, Evans here.
York, Illinois.
The NFL landscape can change at any moment. Free agency is open for business, and this is the place to talk about it. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
One player. Do we have that? I'm sorry, I don't mean to call it in the ring like this, Owen. Do you have that clip about the one player Nathan was just talking about?
No, we played it on the rejoin last time. Here it is again.
Yeah!
I do think, let's say they do sign Walker, and now you've got your full starting offensive line set. Maybe that gives you the flexibility to say, you know what, we think Caleb Downs is a transcendent player, and we would take Caleb Downs. But I really think for the Browns, the first 3 picks have got to come down to most likely a receiver and 2 offensive linemen, one on the outside, one on the inside, because even though you have added all these pieces, you still need heir apparents, and you need people who are going to be able to take over.
We've got a lot of new listeners here over the last year. In fact, a guy named Mike just sent me an email. Very nice man. Steelers fan who's listening.
Wow.
He loves the show. I love when Steeler fans listen, and I love to throw it in Pony's face that Steelers fans listen to me. I love to rub his nose in it.
As you should.
And we appreciate all you Steelers fans, even though we don't get along on our football teams. Appreciate all you Steelers fans listening to me on the free us on the free Odyssey.
No, just Ken.
Well, because I'm gonna internalize it here, folks. I want to see how well these folks know me, because I ain't gonna compare him to Ed Reed. You go back and you watch about 3 seconds of Ed Reed from college. You go, nope, no one's touching Ed Reed. So people are like, oh, my God, he's the next Ed Reed. Ed Reed was a different animal at Miami, man. Caleb Downs pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And if we're talking best player available here, folks, I don't know what's going to open up at 6. You can't just shut him off because he doesn't play offense. And why I have to throw the challenge out there about how well you know me, I already can see it coming. Over the next month and a half, the Caleb Downs conversations open up, and I'm just going to tell people, hey, we can't be closed-minded. And you know what they're going to say. The ones who don't know me. The ones who do know me, well, you know where this is going. Well, you just like him because he's an Ohio State player. You just like him because he plays at Ohio State.
That is not why you would like him.
Nope. I don't hate Ohio State, and the ones who do believe that, I'm sorry, but you have been worked into a shoot by Anthony Lima. How dare you believe the slippery wizard? I don't hate Ohio State. I didn't go there. They didn't put no money in my pocket. I look at them differently. I hate Ohio State. We're in an AI age. I'm going to have to ask you guys to stop that because people are going to believe it. That is not true. Those are 2 clips put together. I hate Ohio State.
Sounds
not
pretty
true.
real.
That is not a true thing.
You can't tell that's stitched together. It sounds
that is stitched together by the late great still alive Kenny Kidd.
Yep.
I hate Ohio State. Listen, man. You may talk like him sometimes. You ain't never going to be the guy in the leather vest stitching words together.
Who do you like?
I don't mind Ohio State.
Okay. What player?
Caleb Downs. I hate Ohio State. I know what you just 25 did. I know what you just did to me. You bastard.
You're what I call a buffoon.
Stop laughing. It ain't funny.
Yes, it is.
Anyway, so I'm going to find out just how many people actually know me and know the show. Because if I say I like Caleb Downs, and I do like Caleb Downs, like, guys, I'm just not.
There's a lot to like.
I can't imagine that on draft night, even if Carnell Tate's there, and they go, Caleb Downs is the pick. I don't think I'm going to be ripping them on draft night if they took Caleb Downs, man.
Well, I mean, I don't think he's a player to rip them over. But
the
I
second
do think
best safety is a ways away from Caleb Downs.
I agree, but it's just not a need.
We're talking best player available. This is not a good football team. You and I argued about this team playing in this division. You need good football players.
You
buddy.
do, but you need them more on the offensive side of the ball.
Yes, you do.
Let's say Caleb Downs is the best player available.
If I start confusing need with best player available, boy, I'm going to be out of a job pretty damn quick.
Let's say he's the best player available at 6, which I don't think will be the case. But let's say
that's what this whole exercise is.
No, but
based on what Nathan just told us.
I think Jeremiah Love is a better prospect than him. And I think Jeremiah
You take a
Love,
running back number 6?
No, but I think he'd be the best player available at 6.
Okay.
Is what I'm saying. So that is part of this argument too.
Okay.
How much is the difference between Caleb Downs, which if you want to call him the best player available, that's probably a different argument.
Okay.
And Carnell Tate, or whatever number 1 wide receiver you have in terms of best player available. Now the gap between Caleb Downs and the number 2 safety, significant. But if Caleb Downs is, quote unquote, the best player available at 6, what is the gap between him and the best offensive player available? Because it's not as big as the gap between Caleb Downs and whoever the number 2 safety is. It's not nearly as big.
So you're saying you'd rather trade down then?
Potentially.
If you're I feel that way. I really feel that way too. That's almost more heresy than taking Caleb Downs for a lot of people.
Probably going to be really good.
I've made
Neither
my mind.
one of you like Caleb Downs.
I like Caleb Downs just fine.
That's not what I heard.
I haven't made my mind up yet. I hate Caleb Downs. No, come on,
dude. It sounds good.
No, it doesn't. It sounds like hell.
You said it.
I hate Caleb Downs.
I didn't say it. You said it, Ken.
I hate Caleb Downs. I'm going to put people to the test this month.
With what?
Because I guarantee if we start talking about Caleb Downs, I got very little downside of Caleb Downs, man. I think he's a hell of a player. I think wherever he ends up, he's going to be a hell of a player. I think he's going to be a very good pro. I don't think he's going to get lost in the sauce. I do think that, yes, taking a guard or taking a safety in the top 10 has always been a big X, and you're not supposed to do that. I get that, but if he's the best player there, we're talking about this draft, how much of a fall off it is. I need a guaranteed bona fide starter. I think they're going to be able to do that. Now, you're talking about already a football team that I think, they tendered the second-round pick with Ronnie Hickman.
Yep.
So I don't think that they're really going to go in that direction. But, again, it's the draft. And if I can't make anybody trade with me, that's another damn thing. Is anybody going to be willing to trade up to go after another guy at number 6 overall? Is Ty Simpson going to be that much of a target for people to go after?
No.
See, this is part of it, but I wish – I want them to get the conversation going, because if the Browns are saying they like Ty Simpson so much, and it's like, okay, you draft Ty Simpson at number 6 overall. But if the conversation gets picked up about Ty Simpson and you get some teams that are going, hey, maybe I really like Ty Simpson. Okay, we've seen crazier things. We've seen, Anthony Richardson went number 4 overall, guys.
Sure.
So if we're looking at a guy like Ty Simpson, things get nuts. If somebody wants to trade up with us, I'll have that conversation.
Well, somebody could trade up for somebody else too. Someone could want to trade up for Caleb Downs.
I think it's more likely
to trade up for Carnell.
I think it's more likely to do it with a quarterback, though.
Yeah.
And so if I wanted to trade out of it, I'd like to trade out of it. But if I'm forced to make that decision and take a guy in those 10 minutes they give you, maybe I end up taking Caleb Downs. And I know that that's not going to be popular with some folks out there. He's still a quality football player. I know they already have a great defense. And I'm not just saying it because he's an Ohio State secondary player.
Well, yeah, you hate Ohio State.
I don't hate Ohio State.
You do.
I don't.
And you hate Caleb Downs.
I don't. I don't hate Caleb Downs. I certainly don't hate Caleb Downs.
I guarantee.
I hate Caleb Downs. I don't hate Ohio State.
How do you feel about Carnell Tate? He went to Ohio State.
Fine player. Doesn't matter. As long as I say his name, he's going to be able to put it together.
Say the name Carnell Tate,
please.
I guarantee. No, I hate Caleb Downs. I'm calling him CT.
Wow, a whole sentence.
Go Zips. That's right, I said it. Go Zips. Remember that. I don't know. It's hard to beat a team 3 times in a row. I'm nervous.
It is.
I'm real nervous.
I've seen it done
about
before,
that.
though. It's been done before.
Boy, don't take it. All you Akron fans, all you Kent State fans as well, don't take it for granted, man. I mean, these two fan bases have owned this tournament. You got to earn it. They've done it. Have a wonderful weekend, friends. Have a wonderful Tall Boy Friday. Blessings to all of you.
Vodka, whiskey,